of the time nonstop on this, talking the whole way through. But our storm's starting to produce more in the way of hail, starting to strengthen, and more likely in the next little bit here to produce more significant severe weather. Hail initially here is our main threat, but the potential will increase for tornadoes in the next couple of hours. These storms doing an effective job of developing about as far east as we expected was possible, so they are, unfortunately, to this point, overperforming on the way they have kind of popped up here. So here's a look at Storm Track Doppler radar. Again, hail main impact we have seen to this point out of these. Appreciate any reports you can give us. We will pass those along to the National Weather Service as we go throughout this process here. I'm going to get this to kind of refresh so that I can see what you guys are posting as far as comments are concerned. And appreciate all of those reports that you're able to go ahead and give us. You can see a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings already. In fact, one that involves eastern Lee County, Fulton. I mean, not inconceivable. We'll have another one there closer to Chesterville here fairly quickly if this continues to kind of develop at this rate. These are rotating thunderstorms, but that rotation not at tornado levels yet, but we're going to have to watch it closely up here around Frankstown as well, see if they get deep enough to do that. We did already get a report up there close to the Alpine area of dime-sized hail out of that thunderstorm near Frankstown. We do expect more hail reports to come in on these over the next little bit. I'm still getting my stuff behind the scenes here all lined up. These are moving north-northeast at this point. We do expect additional development as we go into the next couple of hours here. I'm going to leave it looping on this shot here for a moment, and I'm going to kind of just, I won't be around, but I'm not going to be talking nonstop as I'm getting some other things set up behind the scenes. Okay, so give me a minute to get all that stuff set up. I'm going to leave it on this here for a moment. Not going anywhere. We're just getting things in place. We got that out to them, John? The dime-sized hail report? Okay. They do have a live stream going here. We need to talk for a minute?
Veronica's in Greenville.
Okay. Okay, well then
And she's live at 4:30. You need to be.
I mean, she needs to be under something.
Yeah, I told her that.
It's probably that first storm is through there by 4:30.
Okay. Yeah, I texted her and told her to make sure.
But there's another one behind it.
She's in a safe place, and obviously that's the most important.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's kind of the big thing on that. I mean, listen, it's rotating. We need to rotate tower cam around. Hey, John, can we rotate tower? We're not going to have a shot north. It doesn't matter. Let's look back toward the southeast or east-southeast and see if we can get a shot of that Itawamba County storm. Say again? I know. It'll take a little babysitting, but we'll get there.
I'm gonna go ahead and just have to be straight at 4:30.
Straight live?
You think?
Yeah.
And she can go to downtown Greenville and find an awning, lightning.
I want her in as safest place as possible. That storm, it's a rotating storm. It's the right split. And it's one of the first of the day. So we don't know what they're capable of at this point here. You know, how high, what's the top end, is this, anyway.
We have Jake in Monroe County.
Okay.
And we have Avery in Tupelo.
Okay.
So keep me posted. She's not until 6 o'clock.
Okay. That works. Thank you.
Okay.
Avery's Tupelo?
Avery's Tupelo.
Okay, got it. Okay. Yeah, and Gabe, I'm sending Gabe north as well. At least temporarily. Okay, so let's see here. And when you get reports of, hail, things of that nature, and hail is the biggest impact here that we are seeing at this moment. Obviously, we do have a potential for tornadoes today. And there remains that possibility we could see strong tornadoes as well. Give me a moment here to kind of catch up on. I'm looking at some stuff we're looking at behind the scenes as well. So I'm trying to read and still, at this point, typically get ready for my day. so that I can do the best for you I can. But give me a moment here to kind of read two things. Number one, SPC just put out a mezzo. I'm going to read that for John. And then Memphis just put out their own, lack of a better way to put it, mezzo. Well, while I wait for SPCs to pop up, let's look at Memphis's. Radar's been lining up in the past hour. Supercells have begun to form what can only be described as an explosive environment. Instability very high, greater than 25,000 joules per kilogram, and shear sufficient for rotating supercells. And then there's the other box popping up on me. Let's look at the. We'll read SPC's mezzo first. Corridor of strong to intense tornado potential is evident in northern Mississippi and western Tennessee. A corridor of greater tornado risk becoming evident in northern Mississippi and western Tennessee. Several discrete storms have developed in an environment supportive of strong to intense tornadoes. The different VADs show ample low-level photograph curvature. With the low-level jet strengthening the forecast over the coming hours, the environment will become even more favorable with time. To be clear here, there is a very real possibility that my Facebook Live only a few hours ago, I underdid it. And here's why I'm saying that. Because it was all dependent on if storms formed, and we did not have high confidence level they would form. Well, they've broken through the cap, and that's a concerning factor. So I'm going to show you, I'll pop on, this should, in theory, show you basically the discussion area that they're concerned with. All of the ingredients are in place where strong tornadoes are a possibility, unfortunately, with this setup. So as we're planning ahead here, I'm going to put this up for a second. Keep your phone charged. Get on those hard-soled shoes. Get everything ready just in case. And be getting to that safer location if you are in this tornado watch. The red area there is the area of the discussion we were talking a moment ago there, but let's show you that tornado watch, which is where you see in blue there. You're any of these blue counties, and let's just go ahead and add in Monroe, Chickasaw, and Itawamba County into that just in case. The greater risk is in the watch area here, but if you're near it, we need to be planning to get to that safer location if we need to as well. The environment, as we talked about earlier, that high risk for severe weather was to the north and west, but this was mostly dependent on if storms formed, and it was the questions about whether they would form that limited this risk farther east. But as we talked about, if they could form, that potential for strong tornadoes did extend into that zone as well. So again, lower confidence development, but now what we have seen is development. So that's part of the reason why we got this up a little earlier than usual. This Boonville storm here. Hey, we need to be preparing to do a cut-in behind the scenes. I don't know if you can hear me back there. We need to at least probably do a cut-in. Let's go ahead and at least do a brief cut-in here just to track some of these storms. You let me know when you're ready, and I'll be ready at that point as well. Okay, thank you. Yes. Yes, for this. Probably, I mean, unless we go wall to wall. Chief Meteorologist Matt Laubon here alongside of meteorologist John Delusic. Storms have begun to form, and one of the big questions John was mentioning at noon, Chelsea this morning, I mentioned last night, is if storms could form farther east. They have. That's kind of a bad scenario for us because the environment is primed for not just tornadoes, but potentially even strong tornadoes this afternoon. And we've had development of thunderstorms as far east as practically the Alabama state line that has exceeded model expectations. And so we have to assume that it's possible that we could exceed it in other ways. I'm looking at two storms in particular here. When I say two storms, there's really kind of a cluster of storms here, but there's one there near Fulton, another one near Boonville. Rotation increasing on these, and there is a potential that if these can get tall enough, tap into the winds aloft available with these thunderstorms, available to these thunderstorms today, that we could see tornadoes form quickly and that they could become strong tornadoes. So despite the fact we do not have tornado warnings at this moment, we need to make sure we address both of these thunderstorms very clearly. So let's look at the Boonville storm first. And as we're looking closely here for Boonville proper, locations there in the Boonville area, this is near Blackland, close to the airport, west of town in particular. That rotation has really started to pick up a little bit more. As we look at the wind mode here, it's not overly impressive, but this would be what we call a classic supercell. John, if you would call Gabe, see if we can get him up and streaming so I can get a shot. Our Gabe Mayer heading toward this storm, our Veronica Mejia there in Boonville as well, so we will have eyes on this. But this could end up being our first tornado warning of the day if this continues to strengthen. So as we look at the angle of this kind of moving more northeast, the last few scans, tracking really the north side of town, probably a little north of the northeast campus where this is going at this moment. Speed on these storms, something I'm going to double check here if you'll give me just a moment to do so, because they're kind of changing direction slightly, heading a little bit more east in the last couple of scans. So I'm going to go 50 miles per hour on this. And we'll get you some locations that are in the path of this rotating thunderstorm that, if it continues to strengthen like it could become a tornado-producing thunderstorm. So give a moment here while my system here processes a couple things that are going on. I want to adjust that angle just a little bit more. So we show Christchurch there about 3:47. Current time is about 3:47 at this instant here. We're looking toward Boonville, really kind of, you can see the northern portion of Boonville there, 3:52. That means the west side of town, we're closer to 3:49, 3:50 or so. Certainly, we also already have some thunderstorms moving in and through the area at this point related to this. So watching a potential, this could be become a very active afternoon for strong to severe thunderstorms moving through the area. Looks like the radar site out of Monroe County might be malfunctioning. That is not what I want to hear. Let's give me a moment here to kind of check some stuff, see if that is actually the case. Let's bring up some of the other area radars. Looks like we're having an issue there. Give me a moment here. Another severe thunderstorm that we are watching for locations down there in and around Itawamba County and Fulton. Potential for this storm near Fulton to be dropping maybe even hail the size of golf balls, unfortunately. So some very large hail possibility out of these thunderstorms as well. So really those two main factors that we are contending with at this issue. If you give me a moment here behind the scenes, I'm going to have to probably change. Well, hold on. Looks like radar data might be coming back in. Just in case we have one of those days where it's dropping in and out, I got to get a secondary radar up here for a moment. So give me a moment to do this. I apologize. We're busting some programming prior to the issuance of our first tornado warning, but I think it is probably a worthwhile thing for us to spend some time doing here. Okay, so that secondary radar is up. I'm going to get this back into play mode, and we'll get a track on that Fulton storm. John, did you end up getting hold of Gabe? Out of curiosity. Say again? Okay. I need somebody in the back, if they could, to pound Gabe's phone until we get a hold of him, if we could, please. I think it's valuable to get a good shot on this. Speaking to that point, North Mississippi Storm Chasers also with some looks at this, trying to get their folks in place to show us what is possible out of this. And certainly hail looks like the main issue initially here, but a lot of other things could funnel in as well. Let's get up here and let's look at the Fulton storm. And so that Fulton storm near the Lee-Itawamba County line, where it shows that rotation near Abney, the strongest at this moment. Look into wind mode there. Again, still fairly broad, what we call a classic supercell. And so it doesn't always have the high precipitation wrapping around quite as strongly as is sometimes the case. I'm going to double check the angle on this here. Now, see, I'm going a little bit more east of north than necessarily at this instant.
He's on his way up there.
Okay, but I would like a live feed from him whenever we can get it, if that's the case. I know he's not there yet, but there we go. As you can see, that rotating thunderstorm moving a little bit closer there to folks in Fulton. In fact, hold on, 39. This radar image is 10 minutes old. I really hope we didn't have some kind of failure. That radar is not going to work for us. We're going to have to go to a secondary radar. Give me a moment here to pull that up. Okay, so this is unfortunately what we lose on this radar versus what we had on the other one, is I do not have as good a storm tracking ability on this. I'll be able to give you some times. We're going to have to kind of manually do that. So you're going to have to interpolate maybe a little bit more than we typically do. I'm going to double check where we have the rotation on this. Let's get storm motion, place marker here. Give me a moment to do this so we can enhance this and get this just right. Because that rotation is kind of on the northwest side of the Fulton area right now. really kind of just west of the waterway. I shouldn't say northwest side of Fulton, it's just west of the waterway, strengthening a little bit. It's going to take a little bit more time before that gets all the way to a point where it could potentially produce a tornado, and that does remain a possibility out of this storm near Guntown's mainly hail. Here's a latest look at the one storm near the Boonville area, and again, just west of town where the strongest rotation is on this one. And that does look like on the last couple of scans here, it might have gone a little bit more north. So watching this moving toward Gaston, Bynum there, a northern portion of Boonville. While this is not officially a tornado warning, I would make sure I were in my safe place from this, just in case if it does end up taking the next step. I will say it does look a little smaller than it was a minute ago, and that's a good sign. Size does matter today because depending on how large they are, how it helps them to tap into some of the strongest winds aloft and produce the potential for strong tornadoes. We want them smaller as opposed to larger. Double check over here, see if we can get back our typical storm track Doppler radar. So give me a moment to double check that. Unfortunately, does not looks like we have had some kind of a radar data outage with that, unfortunately. Okay, so let's go ahead and check with our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard. He is on the road looking toward that Boonville storm. He should be just far enough away that we can have a good shot at that. Let's go ahead and take the live shot, and I will just I will kind of narrate it if he's not ready. So that would be our rain-free base there that we're looking at kind of on the back side, the organized portion of that there. So you'll notice that I'm looking at that. He's actually looks like getting on US 45 and Tupelo, so looking northward there. So he actually, give me a moment to look at my screen here. That actually is probably the storm in front based on where I think he is there. I think that's the storm in front. We might not be seeing through to the one up in Boonville. It looks like, yeah, that's probably a storm in front, but let's be honest. And we're going to come back and forth. Leave him up, but let's come back over here to radar for a second. That storm does not look nearly as impressive on radar. You see, this would be the part to be wrapping around trying to rotate back there west of Guntown. It's already showing up with kind of lowering over almost a borderline wall cloud there. Certainly a clear slot that we're watching closely, and it doesn't look like it's anywhere near that strong on radar. So that's one of our concerns, that these storms have a lot of shear to work off of and could potentially produce tornadoes because of that today. Let's look closer at the Fulton storm. Now, latest scans there does show it a little bit weaker than it was a minute ago, and I do want to bring in our meteorologist, John DeLusick, here, as we're trying to kind of poke and prod these at the beginning of what's coming here to see, frankly, how long we should stay on without tornado warnings is at least part of this, John. The thing is when we're on the first storm of the day, this does look a little bit weaker than it was 10 minutes ago. Would you kind of agree with that assessment?
Definitely weird. It looks like it has weakened a bit, and it does look like it's going to be, we're going to be looking at, these variables. I think these storms just pulse and go up and down in intensity, especially the ones that we were having this afternoon over East Mississippi and Western Alabama. And I guess Matt would agree, ones in the Delta are almost like a different creature when it comes to how they're holding their strength. So these are going to be interesting. They'll be what we call pulsing storms. I think they'll be able to get some energy going, and then they'll lose it a touch.
Absolutely, and that's kind of the thing here, because when they they're testing the atmosphere and what it's capable of, frankly. So they have strengthened quickly, golf ball size hail potentially just a few minutes ago, but now looking at this here, the question is can they maintain it? Because the big question on these storms is if they can continue to maintain the intensity. If they can, that's when they're going to produce the tornadoes. And it's part of the reason why we weren't super convinced near the Alabama state line if they would be strong enough for that. They pulsed up very quickly. They've hit kind of a plateau, and hopefully that means they don't punch through enough to take that next step. But we did not want to wait until after something had touched down to kind of bring you some coverage here. So we're going to give this a couple more minutes before we decide if we'll suspend this and just go back straight to live stream. In saying that, we do have WTVA 9 News at 4, Studio 9 come up here in about 5 minutes. So I do think we will continue into that. We'll run the open and continue
So
into
you
that.
want to do wall to wall?
I do think we need to
Okay,
continue
I'll
go
let the producer know.
into Studio 9 like that until these storms have started some kind of collapse. So far they have overperformed. I just don't
Yeah,
want
that's
to.
fine. Just take it.
Okay. I do want to bring in our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard, again here in just a moment. We'll get a storm track on this, and then we're going to see Gabe's camera after we talk about this for a moment. Again, some rotation on this. I would say not as organized as it was 10 minutes ago. That's a good sign. That's what we hope to continue to be the case. But Stutz Chapel, we show it at 355, Rienzi 401 there, Biggersville 406, Job's about 409, St. Luke Church there Of course, this would be up there in Alcorn County by about what time was it there? About 4:09. Let's look at Gabe's camera. Gabe is along US 45 heading northward. He should be getting close to Saltillo there, where you look right above that car, above the road there, right above where it says Weather Authority. You'll see kind of a gray area, and next to the trees that car is just going next to, there's kind of an open slot there. That is, at least from my perspective, Gabe, what looks like the rain free base there on the left. Would you agree that that's kind of what we have going on there? Yeah, I mean, and I show, so for your perspective, I know you're going up 45 there. This is probably latitudinally equal to Baldwin. That's about your distance away. So I'm guessing, have you gone through Saltillo yet? Okay, so you're entering Guntown. So you're actually okay. So if you're entering Guntown there, was that 348 you just went under? Euclid-Tuba. Okay, okay. So yeah, so it is then based on that, probably about 6 miles to your north. You're heading kind of north-northeast at this point. Okay, so keep an eye on that for us. Let us know if you see something drop out of that. That is the interesting part, and you're in a point in the area where you should have a very good view of it. So let us know. Appreciate it. Okay, and we go back to that, we probably end up leaving that lower third down because of the angle that we have it. That's probably what, unfortunately, I think the camera's pointed a little bit too high there. But where we were looking, that area where you had that little lowering is very near Blair. This Guntown Gabe's right there. He's heading northeast along 45, and so we have to look kind of to the left on his screen there. The fact that that looks as organized as it does for as frankly little as this thunderstorm is speaks to the reason why we've kind of come in here a little bit earlier than the broadcast time for Studio 9, just in case. Let's wind things out. Let's reset things here for just a second. There are a couple of tornado warnings already ongoing up here, up into Tennessee, New Bolivar and Jackson, Tennessee, and then north of Memphis. This zone out here, Holly Springs, Clarksdale, Tunica, Memphis, this zone is the most likely location for us to get one of these strong tornadoes today. In saying that, if storms can strengthen, get tall enough farther east, that would then enhance their potential to produce something more significant as well. One of the ways in which we assess that is using storm tops. We'll give this a moment here to kind of bring in all of the data that it can on this. But the storm tops allow us to kind of assess just how tall the overall thunderstorm is. And so a taller thunderstorm is tapping into stronger winds aloft. And so for comparative purposes, that one near Red Bay and northeast of Fulton, the one near Boonville, you'll see they both have the orange. They have the same height and top as some of these out here up into Tennessee, meaning they are equivalent in their strength, meaning they are just as likely to produce a tornado as those ones that have prompted tornado warnings to the north if they can maintain the intensity that they have. So not exactly an encouraging sign in that regard. And hopefully we can get through this without something more significant happening. But these look very almost like classic supercells, and we'll dive a little bit more into that here in just a moment. We do have a new picture that we'll try to get up for you here in a second, coming from the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. This would be near the Guntown area, kind of a clearer shot of that wall cloud we were looking at just a moment ago there. This coming from Josh with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. I'll bring that up there. And so this is that shot of kind of the lowering. At this point here, zooming in, I do not see a funnel cloud of significance, but certainly something we're going to have to watch as this tornado watch, what we call a particularly dangerous situation, and something that we have to monitor very closely. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our Tanya Kyer, John DeLucic. You saw Gabe Maynor in the field a moment ago there. We have a particularly dangerous situation tornado watch on our hands, a situation where it's possible we could see strong tornadoes today. Up until this point, really the last hour, there were questions as to how far east these thunderstorms would strengthen enough to possibly produce tornadoes. They have certainly pushed expectations to their max on how far east, because we have Itawamba County, we have Prentiss County, Alcorn, and Tishomingo County all in play for that potential, and other locations under this watch as we continue through the next couple of hours here. As we go back to Storm Track Doppler radar at this time, there are two storms in particular we're watching very closely. Well, we're watching a bunch. We're watching this one we have not talked as much about near the Lafayette and Pontotoc County line, but the one I'm most concerned with, we have a couple up here in Prentiss County, but this one north of Fulton. And in a normal situation here, you know, this would not be one that necessarily caught your eye, but I do want to bring in on the cross shot here for a second our meteorologist, John DeLucic. John, this looks like a classic supercell as opposed to an HP. I know there's a little jargon for a moment. Would you agree on that assessment?
I agree. I mean, it's the kind of stuff that's goes on, and it doesn't always mean when you have supercells that you're going to end up with tornadoes. But you can have hail, you can have obviously you can rain and everything. Hopefully, these just stay with the hail and the big time rain. But again, like you said, we're just a few steps away from being in a situation where we could have some tornadoes touching down.
Absolutely. So we're watching that location there in northern. This would be Itawamba County, and I'm looking near Fairview School near Mount Pleasant Road here. This is wrapping around, and this is a much healthier storm than it looks like on Storm Track Doppler radar because a classic supercell doesn't have as much moisture. Again, HP high precipitation. This would be more of a low precipitation classic. Why does that matter? It doesn't look like a lot of our tornado-producing thunderstorms do. And because of that, even though this barely shows up here, this is that area of the hook echo that's wrapping around. And as this is lifting northward, this is trying to wrap around enough to produce something more significant. I don't know that it will for sure, but it is definitely trying. You'll notice right here, this is just to the west of Fairview School, where this is wrapping around the strongest, and it's not inconceivable that this makes its way north near Highway 25 in northern Itawamba County, that this at some point could produce a tornado. I got a new scan in there. We'll wait for that data to come in a moment, but let's get you storm track. We're assuming that these are going still about 50 miles per hour, and based on that that speed there, look at Fairview School at 402. We're looking at Walker House Church about 408. Macedonia School by around 414. Tishomingo County, we're looking at about 415 there. Belmont 416. Dennis 419. And Union Missionary Baptist Church, we're looking at about 422. What do you do with this information? In this moment, despite this being just a severe thunderstorm warning, I'd expect hail, and I'd be in my sturdy structure just in case, because it's very possible that this rotation could strengthen beyond what radar looks like in this situation here. We do have a shot coming in from Boonville as well. Boonville, one of those locations where we have another one of these thunderstorms of significance. This is from our Veronica Mejia. She is there kind of awaiting the next round moving in. Looking at this from the opposite direction that our Gabe Maynor has, a lot of dark clouds, but that thunderstorm you're looking at there, we can actually see under it just above that building probably more than usual. She's near the courthouse area there in Boonville. And you can see let's drop that lower third for just a second. And right there where that telephone pole is, that's kind of, you're looking at some of the heavier precipitation with this, some of what could be hail that's moving toward the Boonville area coming up from the south. As we look at this on Storm Track Doppler radar, and appreciate Veronica and that shot, I'm going to track the hail portion of this near Frankstown toward Boonville. Again, assuming about 50 miles per hour, we'd be getting that up into Boonville. This is the hail portion, and the rotation's running just a little bit behind that. Wheeler, we're looking at 404 for you, and basically over top of you right now. Boonville, 411. Now, of course, that'd be the middle part of Boonville, the south part of town there, closer to about 409 or so. So this is coming up fairly quickly. And if we were to see some rotation, that would be coming from the south part here. And that's what we have kind of seen, some at least broad rotation on this thunderstorm as it's kind of lifting northward. To give us a better idea of that, our meteorologist Gabe Maynor has been tracking up along 45 here. We will try to get him back here in a second, but he should be at an angle where we should be able to see whatever rotation that is capable of here in a minute. We, at least in the last few minutes, have briefly seen what we would call a wall cloud, which is a lower part of the thunderstorm where basically the air is going up and into the thunderstorm, and described there as, and I want to double check John on Ashton's location here in the chat with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers as to exactly how strong it is. It does look like he's up on the Millington storm looking at a rotating wall cloud. So I want to clarify and double check those kind of reports before we kind of pass those along. So while we do have some upward motion on that, I don't think we do quite have that fully where we have a rotating wall cloud, thankfully, on that storm there south of Boonville. But we'll watch that closely. Watching this one out here closer to Lafayette Springs and Thaxton, this has got a ways to go before it produces something more than hail. Moving toward Myrtle, this one I would say again, some hail potential out of this at this time, and I'm probably tracking this a little too far east. Moving northward there, speed on this about 50 miles per hour, so we get that there closer to around Myrtle at 424 if it continues at that speed. And we do anticipate that it will probably continue to produce maybe some hailstones out of that one as well. And we're going to try to look at some of your hailstones here in just a moment. Wider shot on these thunderstorms. Again, these have just, I'm going to make this a 2-hour loop, and we'll show you kind of how quickly this has ratcheted up on us. Where about 2 hours ago, we sort of had a few things going, about an hour and a half ago, something, and then really in the last hour, a lot of these have popped up. And they are pretty much all rotating. The question is are they tall enough to stretch that rotation to where it can produce a tornado of, or just a rotation or a funnel cloud of some kind of significance? That is really the question. Let's track the storm down here toward around Bruce. That's moving northward because it's a little closer to where the atmosphere could be more structured. Now, this is in its infancy as far as development is concerned. This will have a long ways to go before this would produce a tornado. We'd be talking probably easily more than 20 minutes if it were to do that. And so you can see there over the next 20 minutes, we're at Sarepta at 419, working its way northward there toward Faxton by 435. And if it continues kind of in that northerly trajectory there, we'll eventually make it there closer to the Ashley Furniture Plant at 443 and Ingomar 448. So it is moving north. It is one we'll have to watch. Thankfully, at this point, not a lot of reports, but your reports are important. We'll continue to get some of those in. We'll hopefully be able to show you a few of the more of those here in a couple of minutes. The primary risk, and as I kind of depict this here, I'll put on our severe risk area. For severe weather and tornadoes, the primary risk is up here closer to the Memphis area. This is the greatest opportunity. We might only have one batch out here in northeast Mississippi, 2 batches in kind of north central to northwest Mississippi, and then maybe 2 or 3 batches of severe weather as far as thunderstorms are concerned back in the northwest portion of the state. So that's why they have the higher risk area. But the thing that I don't want to get lost in the messaging here is the fact that you'll note that we have these white vertical lines as far east as, say, Tupelo and Grenada, and up here in Tishomingo County and Prentiss County. The reason for that is anywhere you see these white vertical lines, there's a possibility that we could see an isolated strong tornado. So unfortunately, that is one of our concerns this afternoon, that could be a possibility that some of us end up contending with there. What we're going to do is we're going to take a brief commercial break here. We're going to come back with some extended severe weather coverage right now on Studio 9. Other cord. I don't know where it's at. Is somebody borrowed the other cord?
What kind of cord do you need?
Does somebody have the other cord, the other iPad cord?
I've got pads, but I'm charging.
The other iPad charge cord is missing. Okay.
No, I'm not an anchor. I don't know.
So it's
There's something
I just gave John one of my IFB chargers.
Right here.
okay. We're sitting. If we're gonna sit in black, we can stay on. I just figured we'd try to run a commercial break or two during the broadcast.
Are we in black?
We're sitting in black right now.
Why? Are we running?
Forecasts, everything's up. You need whatever.
Okay.
Hourly, and everything's up.
I was gonna say, Matt, I have charger cords.
Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. We're coming back to weather. Come back to chroma key. Okay. Okay. Thank you. The Wi-Fi. I don't know what kind of Wi-Fi problems we're having, but okay. Have we need to let them know we at least had penny-sized hail there in Fulton with that storm as it came through.
I have 2 cords. I'm right there for my personal.
11:42. Okay. Yeah, I think I finally have that second iPad up and ready to go. Yes. So first thing I know, want your opinion on this, John. I feel like they pulsed up. They have not blown up.
No, yeah.
Safe to say?
I would agree, definitely.
Okay.
So. This is Like I said, they're almost like a little bit of a different beast again compared to what's in the West Tennessee area. And
Well, I don't know if even those are quite there yet
not
either.
yet, but the ones as they go, if you notice the ones that as they get up.
Whoa, Ryan's Well. Those are some big hailstones. There we go.
So we're on the stream too.
We're on the stream. Okay. Thank you.
Just right now, we're just waiting for them to get the stuff back on.
Okay. I don't know why. There we are. Good. Okay. So Ryan's Well's up here in Tishmigo County, right?
Yes. I remember it's- Or somewhere in northern Itawamba or something.
Is it northern Wamba County? Gosh, I should know by.
Can't remember, she might call it.
I have it on here. I had it on here at one point. I need you to Google that real quick, John. Get me the exact spot because we need to get those reports to like. I mean, I don't know that person's hand size, but
Was
that's
that
some
through,
big hail there.
Where was that? In-
Ryan's Well. It's in our chat. Here's some of the hail from the Ryan's Well area
In Itawamba County.
in Itawamba County there. That is that storm that we were showing you a moment ago. I mean, that's some big hail. Now, always put it next to a coin if you can, but that's some real jagged hail. The reason I point that out is you have to throw it up real quick, and it really aggregates that. And then some. I mean, that's a big hailstone there from the Ryan's Well area there in northern Itawamba County. Appreciate that one coming in just a few minutes ago. Of course, if you'd like to share your pictures with us, weather@wtva.com. One of the ways in which you can do that, or the WTVA weather app. This would be this storm here, likely near Belmont. And you might look at this and go, I mean, we have on a normal day bigger storms than this. Yeah, but I mean, as you saw a moment ago, the proof is what it is, and that shows you the strength of it. You think that's baseball?
Yeah, I went with baseball to the National Weather Service. That sure looked
Okay.
close.
Go ahead and pass the picture on if we could.
Okay.
So that's some big hail for sure there. So now the reason I point that out is because it tells us that there's a strong enough updraft on this thunderstorm to get throw that up. And so even though it's not impressive on this yet, this is what we call a classic supercell. And classic supercells, typically you don't see them really wrap something up until the last moment on this. So yeah, there you are where you see it's Ryan Salem Road. That's pretty close to where that hailstone report would have been. And see, it's underwhelming when you look at this, but the rotation is definitely there on that. So let's get you a new storm track based on where it is at now in Tishmigo County, kind of lifting northward there. Latest scan. I'm going to show that moving more toward. It's going to obviously the hail portion of this is going to be a different track than the rotation portion. So the hail you're going to slice off about 5 minutes from these times for when the hail arrives. But I would like to as we're looking ahead here, make sure that we are tracking the right spot. So Dennis, we're looking at 421 for you. Again, slice off a couple of minutes in that for the hail potential. At Tishmigo State Park, 425. Tishmigo proper, 427. We're looking at Payton, 429. The Allsboro area, 435. Iuka, 439. Depending on which part of town you're looking at there, we're looking at 442, kind of on the north side there of town as it moves in from the south. That's one of a couple of storms we're watching. Another one we're watching very closely. Our meteorologist Gabe Maynor has been tracking very closely. He is on the road there heading in the direction of Boonville along 45. I believe probably getting off. I'm assuming, Gabe, that's the Highway 30 exit on the south side of town. Is that right? Seem to be having some audio issues with Gabe. We'll see if it comes back. So, yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Okay, so tell us what you're seeing. Unfortunately, we're having some issues with Gabe's audio on that there. Can we keep the shot for just a second here and lose the audio for just a moment, and maybe we can get, is he down? Okay. There we are. The reason I want to keep the shot for a second, and I don't know if you can key me over the shot there in the back. When we come to Gabe's shot, if we could do that, you can or cannot. Okay, so right above the middle of the screen there, that dark cloud area, that is the rotating part of this thunderstorm. I point that out because if we come back to storm track Doppler radar, it does not look as impressive as the visual on that looks, because he is, so he is right here kind of on the south side of town, right? The bypass there, and he's looking north into that. That lower area is right there. I mean, this just looks like a shower on radar. But clearly, there is still some organization, some rotation on that thunderstorm. It is weakened from when the initial warning was issued, but certainly that is one to keep an eye on despite the weakening. Now, we have also seen a few of these other thunderstorms up here, like this one kind of lifting northward has just kind of gone through Tishmingo, could still potentially have some smaller hail, maybe dime-sized hail possibly out of that one there, what we call a left split, just because as they split, it's the one that goes left. A few other thunderstorms we're monitoring back out here toward Bruce in particular. The storm that's over top of Banner, moving toward Thaxton, is going through a cell split as well. Broad rotation has some ways to go before it gets strong enough to produce a full-on tornado, but still monitoring it. It's in an environment where that remains a possibility that it could eventually strengthen enough to do that. We're looking at Banner at 417, Takapola, we're at 434 there, Thaxton 439, Bald Hill 450, Ingomar 452, New Albany just about 5 p.m. as that moves northward, about Hickory Flat about 5:02. We do have a tornado watch that remains in effect for really the northern, not quite half of the area. This would be what we call a particularly dangerous situation tornado watch, because it's possible that if these storms can stretch high enough, that we're talking about not just the big hail that we've seen, but also tornadoes and perhaps a rogue strong tornado, a possibility out of this. We will look at where Storm Tracker is placing that greatest potential versus what we're seeing on Storm Track Doppler radar coming up here in just a moment. If we can do commercial breaks, we will. So we at least, but we have to babysit this one, I believe, still.
Okay, so like Studio 9's killed.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, yeah. Would you agree, John?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So that's real rocky 1.5 hail. Okay, give us just a minute here. Okay, I heard that.
Don't do that.
Okay.
Bad television.
Okay, give us just a moment here. John, these have tested the cap, and I think the cap, I'm not saying the cap is winning, but I'm saying the cap hasn't lost yet.
Hasn't allowed.
That's fine. In the past, this hasn't been an issue, but if it is, it is, and we don't have to do it, okay? Okay, how far out till we're back? Hey, how far out till we're back? Probable the tornado sirens going off in Lafayette County now. A tornado warning issued for northwest Lafayette County because the storm near the out in Panola County, kind of north of the Batesville area, near the Batesville area at this time, kind of moving toward the north and east. So kind of clipping the northeast corner there of Lafayette County. So you will not see Oxford in this list because this is not going over top the Oxford area. So I know for parents, might have kids at Ole Miss. That is not the situation we have in here at this point here, thankfully. This is a tornado warning that at some point, if it continues at this angle, could potentially, clip Ashland, but it's largely going to stay just on the fringe of the WTVA 9 News viewing area. I'm going to include Walnut in this just in case it turns more right. Sometimes with these storms, if they strengthen enough, they do go a little bit more to the right. So again, the Chulahoma, we're looking at about 445 for you. Really, as far as our area is concerned, Ashland about 518 there, Walnut about 538. 541 there, Brownfield. Now that's assuming about 50 miles per hour. And John, we will double check that speed if you can here in a minute to see just exactly how strong that is. Now here is a shot coming in. Double check that, see if we have clearance to show that here real quick. So this is from, I believe, Batesville. Yes, so this would be this storm here. And it does look like a lowering, arguably maybe even a funnel cloud out of this. Looks like that is disconnected. Give me a moment. We're going to pop it up here. I think it's worth our time to wait for this to reconnect to show you this shot here. Certainly looks like it could potentially be a funnel cloud on that storm there. Appreciate Lisa from sending us this shot a minute ago there. So I can't say that necessarily looks like it's rapidly rotating. Typically, when you have a rotating funnel cloud, it's going to be more smooth looking along the edges if it's very rapidly rotating. Once it's picking something up, obviously it's not very smooth. But that point there, certainly showing what is clearly an organized thunderstorm there, and that's what will move kind of in the northwest portion there of Lafayette County. So under a tornado warning for those locations as that storm continues to strengthen. The wind speed's picking up on that as well. I'm going to look at the radar out of the airport there in the Memphis airport. It's really along I-55. If you've ever passed that golf ball looking thing along I-55, that's what that is, south of Memphis near the new bypass. I don't show for sure tornado on that as well. Thankfully, at this point, hopefully that remains the case. I'm going to go ahead and bring our meteorologist John DeLuce again here. He's been doing some analysis for us behind the scenes on storm speed and evolution.
Yeah. And I do agree. We were talking about RD.
We'll get your mic back on here. So
Right.
Go ahead.
I do believe they are going at 50 miles an hour, like you were talking about. So that I do confirm on those storms across the area going 50. Just to mention, we were talking about pulsing storms. These storms, even though they're not as going to be as severe as ones in again over portions of Tennessee and western sections of Mississippi, as we were talking with Matt just a little while ago. These are what we call typical, almost like say classic stuff that happens sometimes in the Midwest instead of when you say low precipitation and stuff like that. That is happening with these storms. And again, question mark is like you've been saying that when if are they going to become tornadic in this part of the state?
Yeah, and the hope is that obviously they will not be, but that does at this point here still remain a bit of a question. This storm, looking at the one we've been tracking for now about the last 30 minutes or so, maybe a little longer than that out here from Itawamba County. I can see our hook on it diminishing a little bit in the last few minutes here. It looks like it's weakened. It's probably dropped a lot of whatever big hail that it's had. That said, these storms have a life cycle where they strengthen, they weaken, they strengthen again, and this could be doing just that as it maybe attempts to do some kind of a storm split. I mentioned that because I could see this piece there kind of pulling off of that. We should have a new update in a moment. It's kind of halfway through the update at this second. Let's see where the new one is. And it's also intercepting a place where we kind of have some tree interference down there in Monroe County, but I would put it just east there of Highway 25, our area of the greatest concern in circulation. Looking at the wind mode there, still, I would say broad enough that I cannot confirm that this is a tornado at this moment. Hopefully it just keeps on moseying along as it heads out here toward the north and east. We're looking at Tishmingo State Park, 427. That's about a minute or so from now, maybe 2 minutes at most. Carter Branch, about 432. Mingo at 430. We're looking at Malone at 438, Oldham there at 442, Marjoram at 443, Lime Kiln there at 444, and Waterloo by around 454. Again, this is Doppler radar indicated rotation. This is mainly a hail producer to this point, and there have been a ton of those hail pictures that have come in from you as this has moved in. A couple of these from the Fairview area. Let me double check the name on this. This is from Patricia in Fairview, and these have just been some very large hailstones. Those are almost flat hailstones there. Partially tells you just how quickly they formed when they kind of have little fingers that look like they're sticking off of them there. That's some damaging hail. And for such an unimpressive looking thunderstorm on radar, it's a reminder of the reason why we have storm spotters out there targeting these storms is to give us the real deal view of what they are capable of from their perspective. So again, as we kind of clear that off, that is a severe thunderstorm warning. It does continue there for sections of Tishomingo County until 4:30. There's an additional one to the north that's in effect until 5:15. And both cases here, we do anticipate that these storms are probably going to continue to try to produce some large hail. Now let's talk about the tornado potential, because that is obviously why we started this coverage. And I will say I feel better than I did about 45 minutes ago, because we've had a bunch of storms that are producing some big hail, but they haven't taken that next step so far. In saying that, we got to look closer at this storm here, closer to the Ripley area. It's the one we were tracking near Bruce a little bit ago. It does still have some broad rotation with it. Let's kind of look more clearly as it kind of moves toward the north. If that's what you want to do behind the scenes, we can take that break here real quick. Okay, go for it. We have this tornado warning back out there in northwest Lafayette.
We'll go wall to wall all through 4:30 or.
So let's discuss that real quick.
Okay.
So here's what I'm gonna discuss this with Pat real quick for a second. So here's what we got. As far as tornado warnings are concerned for our areas, but northwest Lafayette County. That's the only one at this moment. This one near Ripley may at some point do it. This one we have here in eastern Lee County is maybe strong enough. And the one we have in Tishomingo, if it's going to do it, it's going to happen probably once it gets into Alabama. I don't know that I have one that in the next half hour is going to go tornado warned.
Can we go back to the warning real quick in
Yes,
Lafayette?
Lafayette, yes.
So it's going towards Holly Springs, northeast.
hmm
Does it look impressive to you?
Here's the thing. On radar, these all look junkier than they look in real life is what it's what it comes down to.
I don't have a problem with you staying on wall to wall. If we
Okay.
have a tornado warning in Lafayette County.
Okay. It will no longer be affecting Lafayette County by halfway through this 4:30 show. We can keep going. We can keep tracking this stuff.
Let's keep going.
Okay.
Let's keep going.
I just want to make sure that we're casting the right angle. So okay. We're gonna go and stay in this.
Let's stay on it, and we can emphasize what's out to our northwest if we need to.
Okay, that's what we'll do. That should not be a problem. And we can check back in with everybody that's out there as
Do I need to
well.
Let Katie know, or is she hearing you right?
I think she's hearing.
Okay.
I'm trying. So we're gonna go and stick with it. Okay, we're gonna start out west. We're gonna go from there. While we're in this, we're gonna look at these storms up here into Tennessee for a moment. Yeah, that's fine. Always watching open's fine. I need to change this to the most sensitive debris mode. The reason we're looking up in Tennessee for our folks behind the scenes for a moment here is to see what these are capable of. So they've gone with a confirmed touchdown on this storm here. Probably where it wraps up there. Perhaps some debris on that. They've backed it back to, for lack of a better way to put it, a standard tornado warning. Golly, like that's, John, an unimpressive storm on radar, right? These are unimpressive storms on radar, which is concerning. That means that we could easily
Estimate what's happening in our area.
underestimate them. Okay. Let's see here, some more. There we go. So we are tracking a tornado warning for Northwest Lafayette County, several other severe thunderstorm warnings, and a bunch of storms that just don't look impressive on radar, but are doing other things beyond what radar is indicating. It is going to, for one reason or another, basically because of the degree in which we have our different elements available for these thunderstorms to feed off of, they're just going to look unimpressive on radar today, and they're going to do things that are more impressive than what radar is indicating, at least based on what Sparta reports are telling us at this point here. So for perspective, as I mentioned, we do have a severe thunderstorm warning for Northwest Lafayette County. This does not include Oxford and really most locations in Lafayette County. It is only locations on the north side there of Sardis Lake that are involved in this. So if you live in Lafayette County, but you're not north, you're not south or east of Sardis Lake, this does not involve you. This is locations north of that. Now, this is heading in a direction that will take it toward Holly Springs. And in comparison to a lot of the other rotating thunderstorms that we have tracked today so far, this one is one of the more impressive ones. Now, I'm going to probably take it a little too far east. I want the clip Walnut still in this. If it could continue to hold together there. Still on the backside there has some rotation that we are tracking. So if we're to make the Walnut, we're looking at about 5:55. So, I mean, we're still more than an hour away for locations there. Brownfield as well at about that time. But Holly Springs, if maybe you're heading that way, I know this is a time of day people do travel for work and other reasons. We want to make sure that that we are in keeping folks from going past this as it's going along I-22 there toward Holly Springs, or maybe traveling up Highway 7 as well. So for Holly Springs, we're looking at 5:07. That's a little more than a half hour away, assuming it continues at this speed. Looking at the wind mode here on Storm Track Doppler radar, I mean, this is what I'm talking about. If we come in a little closer on this near Glenville, this again did not look terribly impressive on just the regular rainfall mode, but in the exact right spot there is where I have the rotation. Let's see if I can confirm debris. This is not debris here. This is clear air wrapping in bugs and things like that. I cannot confirm debris on this at this time, but this storm is impressive enough that a brief tornado possible out of this, and it has flirted with doing more than that, unfortunately, as it moves toward the north and east. We do have other severe thunderstorms that we are tracking. Right before the break, we were looking at this one up here in Tippah County. National Weather Service in Memphis now issuing a severe thunderstorm warning for this. As you can clearly see, their rotation detected the reason why, one of the reasons why they've gone with this. 1-inch hail possible out of this, perhaps at some point, if it were to strengthen enough, it could produce a tornado. This in the nearer term is moving toward Walnut. Again, we're tracking that other storm potentially with a little bit more of an easterly track. This one heading a little bit more north of east. And so Walnut, we're looking at 4:54 for you. So yeah, that's right. An hour split apart. Those two storms affecting locations in northern Tippah County there. This one, as we look at the wind portion of this, not strong enough to produce a tornado really anytime soon. That said, the environment today is set up to where a strong tornado or two is possible. So what are we looking at for New Albany? What are we looking at here for Lee County, for Itawamba County? We've already had big hail reports there in Itawamba County. Out here for New Albany, a rotating storm. But when we check the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar, it again has a long ways to go before it is showing really much in the way of rotation. The reason for that, this is what we would call a low precipitation supercell, meaning it doesn't kick out a lot of precipitation on radar here. But if we were to look at this instead from our camera with the Mississippi Department of Transportation, I'm going to look from Sherman. I'm going to look at this a couple of different ways. I think the first way here, we should be looking north and west, and I'm going to have to kind of peel off all of our location and data and everything that's there to look at it. This is the rotating part of that storm. It does show organization. That I wouldn't necessarily call that a wall cloud at this point. We'll be able to have a better shot at this as it kind of works its way north of I-22 here in just a few minutes to continue kind of assessing what that storm is capable of. Back to Storm Track Doppler radar as we track that northward. Again, it's got a ways, probably 20, 30 minutes before that produces a tornado if it were to get strong enough to do that. So that would be steady intensification. Ripley at 5:05 for you. That could be about the time where it gets to that point. So watching that closely. New Albany, kind of you see the west side of town there. We're looking at 4:41. Current time is 4:35. There will probably be some hail with it. Hard to say just exactly how much at this point because, again, I think radar is underestimating what these storms are capable of. Looking at Morville, Manhatchee here. Again, earlier we had 3 different storms. This is actually probably the 3rd storm to move through here. This one has a long ways to go before it would produce a tornado as well. It may be attempting, before I say it, maybe attempting to split, and splitting is a sign of maturity on some of these storms where when it splits, the left one up here could maintain itself and potentially have some hail potential with it. Same obviously with the right split, but typically a little bit more in the way of rotation to go along with it. Let's look at the wind mode here on Storm Track Doppler radar, and looking at that, any rotation is fairly broad. We'll get you a track on this, and then we're going to look northward toward the Boonville area. So again, this probably has it a ways before it strengthens enough to where it could get that rotation to be more significant, but we're looking at Lakeland Church about 436 there, a new site by about 453, and if that were able to hold together, eventually Burton by about 5 o'clock, Bay Springs Lake at 456. I want to bring in our Veronica Mejia. She is right now up in the Boonville area. A lot of dark clouds there as storms moving into and through the area. We've already had a couple of fairly significant looking storms that kind of kicked through a little bit ago. She's near the courthouse area at this time. Really, the mix of clouds that we're seeing is we're looking back toward the southwest. None of that is overly impressive. What we need to look toward is all the way to the right toward the northeast. And that storm largely, even if we had a good shot at it, has weakened substantially over the last half hour or so as it's continued to move northward. Appreciate Veronica and her shot there a moment ago. Here's what I mean. You go back to about 4:15, that storm was fairly impressive. Largely not a whole lot left of it now. But again, radar has underdone what they are capable of at this point today. And in fact, giving you an example of that, going back to Boonville just a little bit ago when our meteorologist Gabe Maynor was on this, did get this shot from a viewer of, again, fairly organized storm. I know that looks like, eyeball tests are like, that be a tornado? And certainly this is probably the area where stuff is going up in. I'd say it's more a scary looking cloud than a tornado, because typically if this were to be a tornado, we would expect to see, and again, it's a picture, so it's hard to say rotation, but typically it gets a little bit smoother looking than this, especially down toward the bottom of whatever funnel cloud there be. Now, that's organized. We don't want that, but luckily that did not take the next step to produce a tornado. Appreciate all the photographs that you have shared with us today. That one coming in just a few minutes ago, double check there, I believe that's windy in Boonville. And then, of course, the hail has been large. This picture here coming from this storm that's now crossed the Alabama state line. I'm going to pull up this shot here of some of the large hail from the Dennis community. One of the things just immediately catches my eye on this. See how you have the spikes sticking out the side of it? That means something happened very, very quickly. A lot of times you get those small hailstones. We talk a lot about it when we do our school visits about how to get hail. You get a drop of water and it goes up and freezes, adds a layer, freezes and adds a layer. Okay, so this is the impatient storm's way to produce a hailstone, where it has a little bit of something and it throws it up really fast and gets tons of water on it. And kind of like the drips of water end up getting frozen in these little spikes along the sides of it as well. So typically that tells us we have a very vigorous updraft on the thunderstorm there. And those are the storms that we have to watch very closely. So that's why I want to take the time to show that picture there. This storm that has been one of the more intense and produced some of the larger hail that we've had has now crossed out of Tishomingo County. They're crossing the Alabama state line, approaching the Cherokee area. Let's look at the Storm Track Doppler radar. We do have a live radar over there in Muscle Shoals that we can kind of get a look at that one with. You can see with that closer perspective there, definitely a stronger look to that storm. That's a rough looking one for sure. Not quite the point where it's producing a tornado, but certainly in an environment that it's overplaying its hand to a certain extent. And I do want to say that that storm up in Burnsville was as well. Let's look back a little closer here to this one. This is the one that Veronica and Gabe were tracking earlier on. I'm going to go to that radar that we do have over there, Muscle Shoals. And I do have it kind of tweaked to show it a little bit more clearly here. But that's a little more impressive than it looked just on the radar out of Monroe County. So a closer shot here and giving us a better perspective. And I still do have fairly decent bit of rotation. And that was for just a moment there, a hail spike you saw kind of extending out. And that is kind of a refraction that goes on when there's some large hail in it that maybe is exceeding expectations. So let's go and track this here. Again, still a rotating thunderstorm. And I'm going to make sure that we're tracking this at about, I think we're going to go about 50 miles per hour, what our meteorologist John DeLucic was tracking it at just a minute ago there. So let's double check that at 50. And again, that's going to cross Pine Flat there in northern Tishomingo County, locations close to, of course, Pickwick Lake counts. Folks that go to Lake a lot in a couple of months know these locations. Counts, we'll look at 449 there, Keeney Hall at 451, Badosky 441, and Pine Flat at 4:45. Current time is now clicking over to 4:41. We're going to take a brief commercial break here as we continue to track these storms, attempting to produce tornadoes. Keep it here for the latest. Okay. So we have or have not heard from Gabe. Okay. Okay. Man, this storm,
The trend, especially south and west of Tupelo and over to the Pontotoc area, notice those just losing their punch. I mean,
they are like they are trying, man.
They
So
are
so
just-
I have the tuned up version where I have the scale blown out over here on this storm north of Sardis. Like that's an impressive looking little storm there. Okay, let's get a few things organized here for a moment. I need to get this. How far until we hit? Okay, I need to get everything back in this at the same time where I can see this here. You can? Okay, perfect. Where? Okay. Yeah, once. Oh, yeah. Okay, perfect.
You wanna
Thank
see a
you.
beautiful split, the one in Ripon. You see the one in Ripon, how it's split?
I have not. Give me.
Look at it is a beautiful split. I mean, it goes from a pretty good storm west of Albany and it just goes just splits right.
How far? Let me think. Okay. So, okay, 1 minute. Thank you. So I need to see all mail, not just important. All mail. There we are. These are, I mean, John, this is an LP day almost.
It
Like,
is. To see how
would Chasers ask Chasers if they would agree? 'Cause I feel like
This is like like a typical day in the plains, you know, where you have, where it's a concentrated precipitation. It's just like right around,
okay. Let's get this back to now.
there's not a whole bunch of precipitation. These would be-
There's really not.
But where it's raining and it's hailing, it's coming down by mountains. The brief.
Okay, let's get this back here. Closest radar. Several cells distinguish themselves. One, Lauderdale County, Madison, Tennessee. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist John Delusick. A tornado watch continues until midnight tonight. There's a time period between about an hour ago until a couple hours from now, maybe 7 o'clock, maybe 8 o'clock, where if we're going to get these individual thunderstorms produce tornadoes, that's probably the most likely time for us. And then at that point, we start to lose some of the components that allow us to develop them overhead. We'd have to move them in. And so we're kind of at that tentative point here where we're still trying to figure out what the atmosphere is capable of. In saying that, that does mean that we're going to be having to make some educated guesses over that point in time of what is going on. What we have had is this tornado warning that's been in effect for locations in northern Lafayette County. This thunderstorm here has now moved out of Lafayette County. Again, it was just kind of the northwest corner there, closer to Tullahoma, moving the direction generally there of Holly Springs. Looking at the wind mode and storm track Doppler radar a couple different ways there from, as you'll note there, the spot, that would be the typical Memphis radar. And then this one here is the one at the Memphis airport. I have it kind of turned up on the intensity. We've kind of made that adjustment to give us a better look at it, but this shows you that the storm's a little more impressive if you can get a closer shot at it. So we don't want to underestimate what the storms are capable of, but to this point, very thankfully, we have not had one we believe has produced a tornado in our area, despite the large hail that has sometimes occurred. Looking at the storms near Walnut here, and John was mentioning this in the commercial break, we've gotten some splitting storms that have occurred here from time to time. This is an example of one of those cell splits that occurred, and still some hail, I'd say, on the locations there west of Walnut in particular, could be up around 1 inch in size as it moves northward there, obviously in Walnut now along 72 and about to cross the Tennessee state line within the next couple of minutes. Current time is 4:45, and the warning here for Tippah County and part of western Alcorn County does continue until 5:30, though it's probable that that would be lifted before then. We previously have been tracking a storm that kind of moved through the west side there of New Albany. It has weakened a bit more as it moves toward Cotton Plant. Still some rotation with it, but it is not producing a tornado likely at this moment. I think we can still safely say that, thankfully. And in general, the storms out here toward Itawamba County, I want to do a wider shot here. Yeah, Itawamba is as far south as we have to go now. These do not look nearly as healthy as an hour ago. They are still rotating and still potentially something that could get going. But I just want to take our slider back here and go an hour ago. You notice that one storm again that produced the pretty large hail there, inch to maybe 2-inch size hail when it was northern Itawamba County. That's a lot stronger than the storms that we have in that county at this point. The one near Beans Ferry, not one that's concerning. These up here toward Centerville and the Fairview School area, Moores Mill, near Bay Spring Lakes at the top of there. This western one does still have some rotation with it, some broad rotation, and a few lightning strikes going on with it as well. Looking at the wind mode on this there, again, it's fairly broad rotation, I'd still say, near Donovan Road. Let's see if the location does match pretty well. It does. So it's just west of the Tennessee Tombigbee Waterway, where it is now, kind of moving in a northerly direction, moving generally there toward Bay Springs Lake. So let's get kind of a storm track on it. There will be hail ahead. So give me a moment while I track the hail, and then I'm going to immediately come back and cut times by a few minutes here to track the rotation on this. So Pleasant Valley Church there, 448. Roaring Hollow Church at 450. Friendship Church, 452. New Bethel Church, 456. We're looking at 458 there, Jackson Camp Recreation Area. Maxey's Creek Church at 459 and Burton at 501. Now let's slice a couple minutes off of those and, well, actually technically add a couple minutes to it and track the rotation, which is back behind it just a little bit there. Actually, let's adjust it north based on the new scan. And so, again, same spots, but you'll notice now you get a couple extra minutes there. Again, hail will precede whatever rotation can form on this storm. Let's look at it from our radar over at Muscle Shoals, which has done a better job today than it sometimes does kind of detecting this. You can still see kind of the hook echo on the back there and see broad rotation near Sandy Springs as well, but I wouldn't say that that is a tornado necessarily in the generation phase. What it has from time to time done is kicked out these little spikes that tell me they're still seeing some hail in it as well. Go wider and let's look up north. I'd say northern Tishomingo County, still watching that for you. The rotating part of this kind of back where you see this round area south of Damon, northeast of Kendrick along County Road 164 near the Alcorn Tishomingo County line. That's still the spot we'd be watching. And the wind mode there, broad rotation. That's the translation on that. That's probably not producing a tornado, and it probably have to go up a ways before it could. I'm going to look farther away from a couple different radar sites. Monroe County, too far away, still very broad. And then up in Memphis, yeah, still very broad. Not a good look in either of those cases. So the closer radar to that, certainly helping us out. So let's look at where Storm Tracker is now versus what is actually going on. Give us an idea, again, of what things are capable of as we go forward into the evening. Now, you and I are going to get to look at this at the same time. We're going to look at two different versions here for a moment. And so looking at this, which we would call the graph model, I mean, as you can see, nothing, right? Not a thing. And that's not picking on the model, but that's just to say that this has overdone expectations. The HRRR, another one of our projections that we look at, does still have a few of these storms that have popped up. It does not have a whole lot of additional storms developing, and I'm hopeful that this is the case and this could be closer to reality. Give me a moment as I kind of try to force this back a couple of model runs on this to get a better idea of what the atmosphere is capable of here, and I will ask our meteorologist John Delusic his opinion here in just a moment as well. So that's 20Z is the current. We're going to go back to 19. And so we will look at this here. So again, 19Z does not look like it is going to catch up. It takes till overnight before something else tries to develop in the area. John, you have been looking at some things behind the scenes here. And based on what you're looking at, I mean, obviously storms have overperformed. What are we thinking going forward? Do we think that this can really...
I think the trend is what we just talked about just in the last commercial break. This does look like a weakening trend now. I mean, certainly if you watch the storms that were just off to the south and west of Tupelo here, just in the last half hour, and we're at least trying to do something, there's something going on in the atmosphere that's causing them to dwindle away gradually. And again, as Matt was talking about, computer models didn't have a good time on catching this stuff going on, but it did, if you check the last 24 hours, every now and then you can get clusters like this developed. Then they said no, then I said yes. But when they did have clusters, it did show them getting out of here by later in the afternoons, early evening hours, and then having to wait for the stuff later tonight. So this may be our little round that some of the computer models did catch here in the last 24 hours that showed a lot of the stuff moving up into central and western Tennessee. Now weakening across our area, and we'll watch stuff later tonight.
Absolutely. We'll keep watching that. Appreciate that perspective, John. A lot of experience behind that here. So here's what we're looking at now. Again, a couple of additional storms developing. We did hear back from Ashton with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers. He is on this storm over here in Holly Springs. He did, in responding to John's question, say it's absolutely what we call an LP supercell. That's what we expect in a dry climate like West Texas. Well, that's what we're getting here. So underwhelming on radar, more impressive in person. Hence the reason we're covering this the way that we are, because a lot of our projections continue to show the potential that we could see isolated tornadoes out of this. I do want to go to our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor. He is up in the Boonville area. I do not think we're going to be able to hear from Gabe, but he is getting us a shot there near the crosses beyond the west side of town as he's showing what, frankly, at this point looks like primarily flat clouds. The reason I point that out is that means we have used up some of the instability for thunderstorms to work off of there. And so that could be a sign that it's going to be more difficult to get those storms to regenerate in a way where they produce more tornadoes, at least at that location. Maybe that's hopeful thinking. Maybe that's reality there. But there's one storm that we're still continuing to watch extremely closely over here near Moores Mill. This would be Prentiss County here. This would be Tishomingo County there. This would be the part where rotation is showing up near the John Rankin Highway there, which goes parallel to the Tennessee Tom Bigby Waterway. And as we look at the wind mode there, still fairly broad based on this shot here. We're going to look at that closer radar site coming there from West Alabama to kind of double check that. See, I show my positioning maybe slightly farther south than we had it a moment ago there, and looking at the wind, still, I don't know that I can nail that down for sure, but it's a strong enough storm. It's showing certainly some organization to it at this time as it kind of lifts in a northerly direction. So let's get a storm track based on that specific spot for a moment as we go northward. This moving toward Tishomingo, Iuka eventually there. As it kind of tracks that direction, we'll be looking at Tishomingo about 509. Listen, we are hopeful that this would not produce a tornado, but the radar is underdoing this to a certain extent today, and so we kind of have to assume the worst and hope for the best, because some of the pictures we've been seeing from out of state have been very plain style classic tornadoes out of this, and hopefully that is not the case with this. So you can see there eventually Iuka at 524, if that can hold together at about 50 miles per hour. We do expect the hail potential will run ahead of that by 4 to 5 minutes or so at least. And that's what a lot of this pink is there. Believe it or not, the rotation's the part that's barely showing up. And unfortunately, that's the part we need to sample well. We can't sample it very well in this kind of an environment here today. Your pictures continuing to come in from around the area. So many of them are large hail. Does look like we got a trampoline flipped over, so that's how we know we've had severe weather today. Karen in Boonville just a little bit ago with this shot of one of the low-hanging clouds. We would a lot of times call this scud clouds in all likelihood. Clouds is kind of lifting up in there, just like a piece of cloud where just get the cloud to condense and it lifts up in there. Looks kind of worse than it is, the way I described that. Then again, if it were video, I'd be able to tell you for sure if we had true rotation on that. That's something I have not been able to necessarily confirm. Appreciate again Karen for sending us that picture just a little bit ago. As we clear that off there, let's come back here to Storm Track Doppler radar. We're going to put on all our scans for all the different radar sites here, kind of look at a composite for what is possible going forward, which is kind of what we're looking at. You'll note here on kind of the wider shot, if I just peel off all of the different warnings for a moment and take off, I'm going to take off that. I'm going to move it to where the sweep isn't showing up for just a second here. Just look at the areas where we have the greatest clustering of lightning. That's why this Holly Springs storm has a great potential. We have less lightning in a lot of spots, so we're hopeful that means that we are still struggling on the development here. We'll be looking at more detail at that, looking at your pictures and assessing where we go from here in just a couple moments, because WTVA 9 News at 5 starts right now.
He's great. Oh, really? Yeah, he really is.
Oh, okay, we got a commercial break. Sorry, I thought we were starting right then.
Maybe we'll be able to. They really are very good.
Who's that? That's Jake.
Somebody prompt the 5, just in case we have a 5.
Is he going to head east? Maybe head east? He's not going to have cell service if he heads east. Who am I kidding? Heading. Okay. Okay.
Some tree.
I don't know that we want him to head north. I'd rather him head east. I'd rather him head east. I don't know if he can do Highway 30 east, but then again, I don't know if he would have any cell service if he did. Highway 30 would be south side town. 364 maybe. I don't know if he can hear me. Can he hear me directly?
I don't know if he can hear me. But. Check.
No.
Needs to go east.
East.
I'll flip this back.
Yes.
In case they do stop.
Hold on. Somebody texted me shot of this LP.
Right now at 4:58, we're giving you a live look into Tupelo. We're seeing some severe weather and some flooding threats out there. We've got team coverage for you tonight. Meteorologist Gabe Maynard in Prentiss County, along with Jake White. He's in Monroe County. We'll talk to both of them coming up in just a few minutes. But first, let's go to our chief meteorologist, Matt Lawpon. He's got a first look at the forecast. Matt.
Yeah, we are tracking some damaging storms. It's been mainly hail to this point. A shot here of a tree knocked down over top of roadway near Fulton. Appreciate Larry for sending us this picture as that storm. I believe, well, it's 1 of 2. We've had a couple of tracked near the similar locations, but right over top of Bay Springs Lake. Our healthiest storm of the day as far as rotation is concerned, and real concerns that this could be about to take the next step and try to produce a tornado. This is Mississippi Highway 366 right there. This is the outline, as you might be able to see at Bay Springs Lake. Let me pull the radar off here for just a moment so you can see that a little bit more closely. As you pull that off, you can see, so there's where Bay Springs Lake is. As we go back here, and we're going to look at a slightly closer radar site. It lines up perfectly. So this is the Natchez Trace Parkway, you know, where you see from the Natchez Trace Parkway, you look across and you'll see the lock and dam there, Bay Springs Lake. This is right between that bridge and the lock and dam where our area of rotation is at this moment. I'm going to have to look at it a couple different ways, but this is strong enough that this could be thinking very carefully about producing a tornado. Let's go back to the wind mode here. Similar spot. These are what we call low precipitation supercells. And that means that they are going to just not look impressive on radar, right? I mean, just eyeball test. We do this coverage a lot this time of year. Does this look that bad? It really doesn't. But when we're getting these pictures back, when we're getting these hail reports, when we're hearing from folks in the field, it's more impressive than what it looks like on radar. And that's the reason why we still have spotters to go out and track storms like this. So we're going to have to stay on this storm here for a few minutes to see if it can take that next step and produce a tornado. Unfortunately, this one could do that. So let's get a storm track on this. And again, if you live in Tishmingo proper up here, Neal, Dennis, near Bay Springs Lake, this is the Prentiss, right there, Prentiss and Tishmingo County line. That is moving kind of in a northeast direction. They're closer to Tishmingo. We're going to be sticking with this, by the way, Joe, and I want to check with our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, here for a second. I need to figure out where he is because we probably need to go east and get closer to this. Again, I want to make sure that he hears that. I'm not sure he heard that in the commercial break before. But let's bring our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor, in. Let's make sure that he has swung his camera back around to the east so we can get a shot. I don't know with trees or anything we're going to be able to have a good enough look at this, but I'd like to see what and hear from him and see what he is seeing. So I don't know if we can kind of pop that up and keep me up at the same time. So which direction are we looking here, Gabe? Can you hear me, Gabe? I'll be honest. You're visually looking at this for a moment here, so I want your opinion on this. I'm not 100% convinced it will, in fact, be wrapped in that rain. A lot of the reports we've been getting have been from that these are low precipitation supercells from where we're at there, which is part of the reason I think even though you're a ways away here, I don't think it's inconceivable you could see a wall cloud on this from your distance. They might be a little bit high based. I mean, especially when I'm looking over that awning with the gas station there. I mean, again, I'm looking at a camera, you're looking with your eyes. What are you seeing? Okay, that's our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor there in Prentiss County, kind of looking eastward there toward our storm in Tishmingo County. Appreciate that. Gabe's over here in Boonville, right there, kind of the edge of Boonville, looking into that. That's the reason I was talking about kind of toward the right, toward the gas station there a moment ago, because if you're looking straight along the road there, he'd be looking that way, so we want to look kind of toward the right. So that is the part there where we have the rotation. Listen, this is a severe thunderstorm warning, but I would prefer if you live close to this, especially these first few up here, Tishmingo, closer to this, if we were in a safer location, simply because it's possible that this could end up producing a tornado just looking unimpressive on radar. And Gabe mentioned the lightning. A low precipitation supercell like this has less ability sometimes to produce as many lightning strikes. The precipitation, the way in which, for lack of a better way to put it, rubs against each other, generates a static electricity. When you have less precipitation, you sometimes have less static electricity. You have a lesser amount of lightning out of it. So we don't want to underestimate that. We also don't want to overinflate as well. So there's where we should be. And as we look again back on the latest scans on Storm Track Doppler radar, we're going to look for Monroe County now. I do think that this is going through a bit of a cycle, as meteorologists would call it, where basically there's a life cycle thunderstorms go where they kind of wrap around the what we call rear flank downdraft, the rotating part of the thunderstorm, and then kind of suck it in and try to do it again. And this is going through a cycle at this moment here. Very near, this would be the Natchez Trace Parkway, kind of snaking along there, pretty much right along the Natchez Trace Parkway, where that area of circulation is at this time here. So continue watching that one very closely. As we bring those rules down here, let's check out the area as a whole, because we have had over the last 30 minutes or so, kind of a change in the overall atmosphere and the way things are going. Look at this 1 hour loop. Our storms just kind of busted out all over the place. And then now, as you'll notice, we have a lot less of them. They've tested the atmosphere, what it's capable of, and we're hopeful that this means a more limited number of storms going forward into the remainder of the evening. I think tonight, what's eventually out here will work toward us overnight, but we have to get these couple of storms out of here before I think we can feel more comfortable that we're done with this initial round. In saying that, there are a few storms that we're looking at in and around Monroe County. This one near Okolona, pretty small. But again, the eyeball test on some of these has from time to time made it look like they are better than what we're looking at there. I'm going to bring up our Mississippi Department of Transportation camera. We're going to look from Tupelo south, probably our best bet there along US 45. I say Tupelo, technically it'd be Verona, looking southward into that storm. And again, there's our precipitation. There's our rain-free base. I mean, it's a fairly well-organized storm for as small as it looks on radar, but that's a huge gap between the bottom of the storm and the ground. So this is more than 30, if this were to ever get to a place where it could produce a tornado, it's more than 30 minutes away at this point. So we'll get a long track on that, but I think that's a good sign as far as that is concerned. And so getting a longer track on that, I know, it just looks like a speck. And I'm like, really? Yes, really, because these storms are going to look ugly or weak on radar and look better in person. Nettleton, we're looking at 512 there. Tupelo about 530. Saltillo about 540. Guntown about 548. And eventually maybe Boonville with another one if it can hold together about 611. A lot of pictures keep coming in from back out here closer to Holly Springs. A storm that previously had prompted a tornado warning for northwest Lafayette County. As we look at that in more detail on Storm Track Doppler radar, that thunderstorm hopefully going through a bit of a weakening phase. And I do think that it has stayed far enough west, again, to not make an impact out here toward Ashland or Walnut. That's a good thing, because if it continues to have a little more of a northerly angle to it, that means it hasn't turned east and hasn't used up all of that shear. And so a lot of good things going our way as far as that is concerned. A tornado watch remains in effect this evening, what we call for a particularly dangerous situation. It's a fairly rare tornado watch, not because we expect every thunderstorm to produce tornadoes. We don't. But it's possible maybe one or two that could produce a strong one, which is why we're just having to really poke and prod all these storms as a result of that. We anticipate, again, the next couple of hours we're going to see these storms in advance of the ones we're most concerned with. Of course, we're watching this from other locations around the area, Emily, and as we go into the evening, we'll look in more detail where Storm Tracker is placing that overnight threat for severe weather and updates, again, especially on that Tishomingo County storm as it continues to kind of go through the cycle it's going through at this moment.
Remember, best tool to keep you safe during life-threatening severe weather, like what we're experiencing, is WTVA's Weather Pulse Next Gen. Weather Pulse Next Gen will send you a text if your home's in the path of a severe thunderstorm. Call you if the threat increases to destructive hail or damaging winds, and call you back to let you know a tornado has been confirmed and headed to your location. Go ahead and scan that QR code there on your screen with your smartphone to get more information on how to keep you and your family safe. And our Gabe Maynor also tracking the threat in Prentiss County. He's joining us live now. Gabe, what do you see? Take that back. We're actually going to go to our Jay White. He is following a fire caused by a lightning strike that destroyed a home in Monroe County. It was more than just a house, though. It was a home that held decades of memories. Let's go to Jake live. He spoke with one of the family members.
Again, people are developed over have heard spike.
Yeah.
Already seeing it. It's just.
Is there any model it is? I don't think they're going to hold on either. I think this is it. I think Tishomingo's it, and then we're done.
This tested with the heating of the day. think the heating, the peak heating of the day, we were so warm, middle eighties, lower nineties.
Yeah.
They just, like summertime.
We hit convective temperature, but I mean,
And they tried it in an atmosphere.
they tried. They're all LP. I wasn't expecting LP. I was expecting classic. I wasn't expecting LP.
I know that, it was like you say, LP, like more like a plains storm system.
It's right over Tishmingo now.
These
Oh.
rest of these are just kind of like, they're trying, but they don't have that, they don't have the heating of the day to work with, and it's like now.
Got that hour by hour. Put on a 7-day day part. Start off with hour by hour, then I can do the rest of it manually. What else do we have in this block?
Who knows? But I
Hey,
don't,
Maddie, what else do we have in this
I
block?
don't think we have anything.
Okay, I'm just asking.
Finish.
Okay, sorry. Hey. Yes. Probably. That's probably your only chance. Okay. Yes. Yeah, we'll be back. So we'll be back Chroma for the next one. Okay. Sure. You're probably, I mean, you're probably not running anything else, but what we're doing the rest of the time, unless you've got something like you have to have. Okay. Now I am hopeful that after this we go to nightly, and I think there's a decent chance we go nightly after this. Because I'm really hopeful this is almost used up everything it's got. And we got real lucky.
We have repeat performance tomorrow with heating day. I think so.
You think?
I think so. I think we'll be on that, you know,
So
we can get middle eighties, lower nineties again, we can go.
No. We need to weather open. We can do weather open to me to Emily to me if you want. That's fine. Let me see here. I've got possibly Bay Springs Lake. Need to 10 seconds.
Our viewing area is still under that tornado watch at 5:13. I'll just kind of log on joining us. Philly.
Yeah, we're looking at this storm that kind of moved through Bay Springs Lake a few minutes ago there, where we were tracking a lot of heavy rainfall, some hail with that as it moved through. Looking at one of the lower areas. Appreciate Susan with that picture, that video there you saw a second ago of, again, what is a lot of heavy precipitation, as you can see there. Not quite the hail size, thankfully, from what we had previously. And any rotation on this, we're kind of looking from a live radar we have access to out there near the Florence area, I believe. Muscle Shoals, actually. And so it does show that rotation pretty much over top of Tishmingo, the city, at this moment. We'll look out of Monroe County, another shot there. It is not as impressive. When it was down here south of Bay Springs Lake, it was much more organized than it is now. I am very hopeful that if this doesn't get over the hump and produce a tornado, that we make it through the remainder of this evening with not a whole lot of additional development. But certainly, as we've talked about all evening long, these storms have exceeded expectations visually when you're looking at it versus what they are on radar, frankly. So there's some broad rotation on that. We're going to track it as though it is maybe more than it actually is. Better to be over-prepared than under-prepared in this situation. I would say is probably the right answer. I'm going to include Iuka in this track, but it's probably going to be the east side of town in particular where we have issues, if we have more issues. And this probably does still have some 1 inch or greater hail there south of County Road at 957. We've had a couple of storms move through here that has mixed up the atmosphere, that has used up some available fuel, and fingers crossed that is helping us out. Iuka 5:22. Current time is 5:15 as it's moving through there. Through Tishmingo County now, mainly just east, no more than about a mile or two east of Highway 25 where that rotation is. We're looking that eventually toward Eastport at around 5:32, Waterloo at 5:35, but in the near term, Blythe Crossing at 5:23, and Rutledge Salem Church we're looking at 5:16. Again, this is easily our strongest storm as we have it, and I'm going to kind of hit it again one more time, just double checking the latest on the wind potential here. Still broad enough. I'm hoping that it's going through a bit of a split right now, rotation down there near Tishmingo, maybe a split that hopefully would weaken it long enough to get it out of here. That storm that is over top of Iuka probably had at least a little bit of hail in it. The strongest portion of this most recent one kind of went on the east side of town there, as you'll note, near County Road 246 at this time. Wider perspective, to kick it back to the radar there out of Monroe County, there aren't a whole lot of other storms of significant concern. We were talking about that one, how it'd take a long time there in eastern Lee County. Probably not going to pull the trigger on that one there. Let's look at this one here that's near the Itawamba Marion line there on the Alabama state line. Again, that one's just now starting to ratchet up a little bit. John, I think we have to have enough of a low-level jet on this, I think, here, that there's moisture is helping to kind of reform some of these. I want to be able to turn it off after this batch, but then we see that one there that's gotten a little stronger again.
And we were talking during commercial, I mean, also what's one of the main ingredients that's missing right now is the strong uplift of the heat of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, these are still trying, they're trying, and they're going to keep trying, I think. And the big main force still off to our west. I mean, that's with the storms that forced to Missouri and Arkansas and western sections of Tennessee. But this afternoon, we had a heating of the day with middle 80s to lower 90s. It's like trying to boil up some water. Once you turn that heat off, your bubbles stop bubbling up. And these are still bubbling, but they're not bubbling to the point where you saw earlier.
You nailed it. And I was going to say it, but you hit it first. You're absolutely right. This is like somebody has taken the boiling water and perhaps turned it down just a little bit. You can still get some big bubbles in this situation, hopefully not big enough. So there's the track on this one. We'll have to monitor it. It's easily the strongest that we still have there. Red Bay, we're watching for you at 5:40 if that can hold together. Storms have been stronger back to the west, and this is to be expected because this is the zone out here and up into Tennessee where we had that high convective risk today. And that's when we look at those risks, that purple risk back out there for those locations. Again, greatest odds of seeing something more significant. Looking at Storm Tracker here, again, not doing a great job of showing the storms that we have out there now. So again, keep that in mind when we show what it's going to do later. But you see through midnight, not a ton of additional activity outside of the storms that are going now. So we're hopeful that, again, as we kind of turn the stove down, we lose the heating of the day, that those storms are less impressive. Overnight, though, it's possible that a few of these thunderstorms, again, could build in and, again, try to produce some severe weather, though this particular projection keeps the majority of the activity back to the north and west. Tomorrow's severe weather risk, again, a level 3 risk that does clip northern Lafayette County in a lot of ways. Similar locations to where we had our greatest concerns today. And that risk continues again into Friday as well. And then, believe it or not, Saturday, we're all under a level 3 risk. That's probably the greatest of all of our chances there. So our forecast tomorrow, we keep the percentages largely off until late afternoon. And then again, those are primarily for locations in Northwest Mississippi. Saturday's the day, Emily, that we're really watching extremely closely. That's probably the most likely one for us to end up seeing more widespread storm chances, but certainly still someone watching out there this evening as well.
Did not take I got 20% in there, so did not take.
I'm not sure why it decided to do that. Yes. Okay, how much time do we have? No, I mean, how much time do we have of usable time? Okay, thank you. 6:50. Nickel size hail in Tishmingo. If you, or yeah, I need to be chroma everywhere. Yes. Yeah, I got it. Nickel, okay, you know.
We got a picture of some of that hill, you know. I zapped it up.
So
There is a picture there. It should be go, you know. about 10 minutes.
12. Here's Belmont. Lots of low clouds there at Belmont. Yes. That's fine. How long do we need? Do you need me to go again? I wasn't paying attention. And how long do you need me to go? Okay.
You got- I got
If we
Anna-
kill a break, how long? Let's do that. Let's do that. Or at least put the break after this. Do both breaks back to back.
Tishomingo Hill, Nana. 5
Put
minutes.
it back to back. Okay.
So up here in Tishomingo County, still watching some of the storms kind of moving through that area. And this shot from Belmont just a few minutes ago, some of the low-hanging stuff there. I mean, definitely looks a little more organized. Ominous, yes, more dark clouds than anything, but it definitely shows there's some structure on the storm that maybe isn't as obvious looking at just the radar itself. John, you were saying something before we came
Yeah.
back from commercial break. I want to bring you into his. Go ahead.
Tishomingo Hail, on our picture about 5 minutes ago. It's about a diamond nickel size hail. We got a picture of Anna.
Okay, Anna there.
Weather check.
Okay, here is that hail that John was mentioning a moment ago there. Again, possibly up to around nickel size hail. If you could put a coin next to it, it always makes it a little easier for us to get a good look at it here. As we're bringing in closer and look at that storm, the most likely place to be producing some hail is kind of on the east side there. And I will say that you mentioned that was Tishomingo, and Tishomingo is right here. The main hail portion of this did not pass over that. We might have had somebody. Well, no, I take that back. It did go over top of that. The rotation right there nearest Iuka. So as we kind of show that in a little more detail here, show that kind of continuing to show some broad rotation. I don't know that the Weather Service is going to reissue on this one if it continues this kind of downward trend, which is the thing we hope will continue to happen with this as it kind of lifts in. But Iuka, I think you're in good shape. And again, the main city grid there with Iuka, as to this, is kind of lifting your Oldham there, Limekiln toward the north and east, and really going to just kind of only clip locations left there in Tishomingo County. We're going to look at this from our other radar site in a moment, but Oldham, we show the rotation part there at 524, seeing a general downward trend on the intensity of these storms, thankfully. Not something that necessarily will continue, but it's encouraging to see. We're looking at Waterloo at about 536 there, and Threets Park at 537. I'm gonna look at this three-dimensionally here for a moment. See, maybe it's just more obvious on the higher level scans there. There we go. Why haven't we been doing 3D the whole time, John? There's the right answer. So looking 3D, you'll notice how there's a lot more. It's kind of the opposite of what happens with an iceberg, where there's a lot more showing up when you go up on this versus what's even shown down at the surface. So it's still throwing some of that hail on this up around almost 40,000 feet. So that's why we're still getting some of these larger hailstones potentially out of this as it makes its way toward the north. The wind mode, going back to that closest radar site again, we're looking from just across the state line over there near the Florence Muscle Shoals area. And that's, again, gives us kind of a disjointed look at this because it does this particular radar does a slightly better job when things are a little closer. But the broad rotation there still on this is not quite as impressive. The green's not as bright, the red's not as bright as it was a few minutes ago. So a general downward trend on that, thankfully. Let's kick it back over to our primary radar site that we're kind of use out of Monroe County. Double check some of these storms that were a little stronger a few minutes ago near the Alabama state line. Yeah, good. That one has diminished as well. I think, John, and you were kind of indicating this a minute ago, kind of looking behind the scenes there, that perhaps we had seen this sort of peak in our area. I think, John, that might be the case. Any other indications of that, kind of what you're seeing from folks in the field?
I would say just from folks in the field and just looking overall at all the maps that are coming in, I think we're going to be looking at a gradual, hopefully, not this is all granted. We're waiting until later this evening for any kind of the big time stuff. This stuff that was overhead this afternoon now. And we're looking at just a heating of the day, and that was one of the main ingredients. You take away you get one of the main ingredients from a cake, you don't have that good of a cake.
Absolutely. So like you mentioned, the differential heating there, where just one spot's a little hotter than the next, is kind of what has helped us to produce these thunderstorms. These are always, for meteorologists, the most challenging ones when you get these storms kind of forming out in what we call an open warm sector ahead. If they can strengthen enough, they have all the components to do very well and produce bad tornadoes. These got close, and I think largely are going to end up falling just a little short, thankfully, of that threshold. That said, there's a lot of other thunderstorms we're still watching back here to the north and west. And we do anticipate eventually these to form more of a line of thunderstorms that tries to roll in. I'm going to look at a slightly different version of Storm Tracker versus what we showed you a moment ago there. As this kind of populates in, this will kind of give us an idea over the course of the next couple of days how things will play out. So you can see into this evening, additional thunderstorms eventually start to try to get close to us. But notice how they kind of set up an area here back stretching from around Greenville and Greenwood up toward around Corinth, where perhaps we have just everything in the right spot to see the flooding rainfall potential as well as perhaps some damaging wind gusts out of this. We'll bring it in a little closer here as we advance it. And you'll see into tonight, still overnight, or 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, some strong wind gusts and a non-zero tornado chance out of these storms. That's, again, some rotation possible out of a few of them. You saw that one still kind of held on there as it went up there closer to Iuka again. So said your name bunch today. Hopefully we're not saying it a bunch overnight. Our meteorologist Chelsea Simmons, myself, and meteorologist Gabe Maynor will all at different times and together at some points be monitoring things overnight. Then additional storms try to pop up again tomorrow afternoon. Again, what we had pop up this afternoon was not very well predicted by any projection. They had a few out here, but didn't have very many as far east as they were. So it is, as John has emphasized extensively behind the scenes, and I would agree with, possible that Storm Tracker is underdoing tomorrow's potential. And then late tomorrow night, in the pre-dawn early Friday, some storm chances getting closer with kind of the last hurrah of this, with additional thunderstorms trying to pop up Friday afternoon and a greater chance as we go into your Saturday for storms to possibly form again by your Saturday afternoon. This projection only goes out the midday Saturday, but this batch out here, if it can roll in, we get everything to go the wrong way. I think Saturday late afternoon and night is probably our peak of our severe weather and tornado threats with this current system as it moves into the area. So again, 7-day forecast. Want to make sure we emphasize this again. This is day one of 4 total chances, and that does mean we have another chance, mainly north and west for your Thursday, mainly north and west again for your Friday, and then Saturday, a potential that a few thunderstorms could be strong enough to produce, again, tornadoes in the Saturday night and early Sunday. And while the tornado threat's there each of the next few days, probably our greatest threat ends up being Saturday. We'll have more information coming up on WTVA 9 News at 6. LP supercells, John. 10 out of 10 times. Let's go. You go home.
Hey, John. Stupid question, but are we gonna have severe weather tomorrow?
I think personally, what's gonna, this was a sign of what can happen tomorrow. The next
We have a
thing that-
50K giveaway
Yeah.
tomorrow. We can.
Okay, that's.
Somebody brought my tropicals, please.
This will be, I would say.
We need to have a huddle about that.
Tiger blue. What? Okay. TV, I think that's. What TV? Or channel, all right, make it report then. Oh, okay. Well, they said we're good now. Yeah. Get in the block of two.
Brain, not.
WTVA 9 News, I'm Emily Leonard. A Pickens County man received a life sentence for a deadly 2021 shooting. Jeremy Colvin will serve life in prison. A 31-year-old was sentenced Wednesday for the death of Vincent Barnes. He also received 3 life sentences for the attempted murder of 3 men who were shot inside a home in 2021. A jury found Colvin guilty of all of the charges following his trial in February. For more news and information, go to WTVA.com.
Hello, hello? Hello. Okay, sure. Let me just go ahead. All right. Let's see. Go this. This is locked. Let me get this. Don't knock anything down. Oh, it's one. Let me just hang on. Is that good enough? I think that's got. Yeah, for right now, yeah. For right now, we're okay. But later tonight and tomorrow and craziness, you know. All right. Weather-wise, on your Thursday, another repeat performance, some isolated to widely scattered showers and storms. Otherwise, a better chance as we go into the nighttime hours. Temperatures top off near 86 in the afternoon. We'll talk about all the weather details later tonight, right here on WTVA 9 News at 10. Okay. Right. Yep. All right, Mississippi and Alabama travelers, indeed, we'll see some isolated to widely scattered showers and thunderstorms on your Thursday. A few of these could be a little heftier, especially as you work your way up toward the Memphis area. We could see a severe weather outbreak again on your Thursday into portions of your Thursday night. Okay. Yep. Mississippi and Alabama travelers, you've got off and on rounds of rain and thunderstorms and even some severe weather as we go through our Thursday night, Friday night into portions of your Saturday and Saturday night. And then everything tapers off as we go through our Sunday with some scattered showers still left over for the day. After that, we see temperatures staying in the 60s all the way into middle sections of next week. Morning lows will cool off down into the 30s and 40s. And one thing to mention about the severe weather, the farther north and west you are, especially if you're up around the Memphis area, you'll be seeing a much better chance all the way through Saturday. Hey,
Just post a new article whenever you can.
I will. All right, thanks.
And also, John. You know how a lot of people don't know their tornado watching every morning. Look on Daniela's Facebook page, look on Taco's Facebook page, or Chick-fil-A. They did a good breakdown.
Oh, that's cool. That's anything doing.
Like Facebook,
We've gone down that road many times.
it's basically they put watch, colon, we have ingredients for taco. Warning, we have tacos.
Put that out. That's a good way to look at it.
Like we have ingredients for cakes. Now we got.
Like I said, moments ago, I said, we lost one of our main ingredients, that's why our store is not, they're doing a good shape.
I do think something was able to come to a drink that would not at all be talked about. Maybe that actually does something. That wouldn't be shocking.
There's some pretty good power outages.
Do we really?
I mean, comparatively.
I apologize. We're trying to work on some stuff here behind the scenes. What's happening is we're kind of behind the scenes getting our stuff, our ducks in a row for where we go. Here.
Are you on the stream?
Yeah, stream's still going, but I can come over there real quick.
I gave Michael White a heads up about tonight. I don't know about a 2 o'clock thing. So he knows that there could be some storms firing up midnight-ish or whatever.
Okay.
So if one of y'all wouldn't mind talking to Master Control,
Okay.
John, or Matt, if it's looking like it's gonna be a 2 a.m. thing.
I mean, it's possible, but I don't know. We're better off bringing someone in early than keeping them.
I think his plan was to keep the 10 o'clock director. 10 o'clock director late. So.
This is one of those scenarios where at 10 o'clock I go, it didn't look that bad. And then 4 hours later, 2 a.m., I'm regretting that
Well,
decision.
I can call Michael White from home. Just if you need me, call me, text me. But he told the 10 o'clock, that's Stephanie or whoever, to stay late.
Okay. And when does the next person get in?
It's usually around 3 o'clock or so.
Okay.
But
Let me.
call me, we can make that happen.
Okay.
We got stuff to do.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, let's get caught up on where we're at here. Let me think. What is that coming through there? That's. Oh, he's got weather 2 up there. Give me a moment. Apologize. Why is this? Sorry, gotta get my stuff all done here. So what we're doing, hey, Intelligent. So let's get this back to current. Yes, Zach.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Get that back up. Man, these storms. Hold on. Where's that? Man. Some of these storms in northwest Mississippi are impressive. Okay, let me get this back. That there. There we are. It looks like, okay, so you'll notice here, part of the reason we are not going and blowing and going at the moment is we don't really have a whole lot out there. I think we have peaked. I am hopeful that our next chance is overnight at the earliest. Things look a lot better than they did an hour ago and a lot better than they did 2 hours ago. I mean, yeah, there's your Caledonia storm. Like that just looks like next to nothing. A little stronger than it was, but I mean, that's unimpressive for sure. Let me moment here. Pull this up. Give me a second while my computer here catches up. It's going to take it a minute. I really do think we've peaked unless something goes really sideways. This was our concern. You see, we are only a county or so away from this being a lot worse of a situation. Because Northwest, as you can see, that stuff's a lot more rough. Yep. Hold on a moment. I'll put that back over there. Let me get this back over there.
So, Chris is going to stay at least until midnight. I told him to check in with you before he leaves. Brad is supposed to come in at 3, but just don't send Chris home if you need him. And then if you need to call me or whatever, my phone will be on. Or if I need to go ahead and be proactive and give Michael a call earlier in the evening and say, hey, I'm going to bring Brad in at 2. But Michael, Chris, Chris does not mind the overnight.
If I'm not mistaken, they usually stay till 12:30 normally.
And he says he usually leaves after Nightline, but I said, hey, just check in with the meteorologist before he leaves.
Okay.
And he doesn't mind staying late.
Okay, perfect.
So I
That'll
think
work.
we've got a plan in place.
Awesome. Thank you. So yeah, you see Northwest there. That's where that is. We are way better than locations up that way, as you can see. That's a much more active look at things back that way. Are you on one or there? Okay, there we are. So we're on the eastern fringe of something much more significant, and luckily we have got taken about as fortunate as any of this can go. I mean, to have discrete storms popping like that, and that's the worst we get is hail. But okay, you mentioned power outages. Are those still up on 3?
Chickasaw County, I'm not sure if the one in Tippah County, so Benton County, it's associated with that one, that little tornadic cell that tried to pass through that area.
Yeah. So Chickasaw, about 300 folks. There were some strong winds reported down here, just some gusty winds going into this. No, it doesn't. I mean, all things considered, this could be a lot worse than some of these outages. Appreciate the folks at poweroutage.us, whose data we utilize for their come on. I'm trying to get that up here, assuming the tablet's trying to catch up.
Main final.
We have first main final. Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
First, whatever you guys do, I'm 4:30-ish. You take more, that's fine, and then about a minute for final.
Okay, thank you. Come on. I'll have it for you in just a second. Sorry, I'm working hard to try to get one of these. So we do anticipate later on tonight, we will have storms move in. All the storms are out there west are on a front. That front is going to come in and kind of hit the brakes. We don't know exactly where the brakes get hit. Wherever that happens, then there's going to be a flooding rainfall potential to kind of go along with this. And that's where that really sets up. Boy, Messenger is taking forever this time. Can't figure out why. That is just get me to the latest stuff. There we are. Okay, so this is Coahoma and Tunica counties, and this is something you would see on the plains. We have North Mississippi storm chasers with this shot here. I mean, that looks like plains sort of stuff. There's no question about that. They have their drone up kind of looking into that. That's Coahoma and Tunica counties back in the northwest portion of the state. That's a whole thing. So that's where they are. They're on that storm there. Ashton is on that one, where things are a little more impressive. I need to get the day for, right? Day 1, Wednesday, 2, Thursday, 3, Friday, 4, Saturday. Hard to keep track which day we are, and we're only at the beginning of this. So let's get that set up. We need to edit the day 4. Severe risk. Just give me a moment while I get this done. Control-S. Let's adjust that. I have to come in here and adjust this, unfortunately. So it takes me a minute to do this. This is just behind the scenes sort of stuff. We're keeping this live stream going, but I'll be honest, I am underimpressed by what we see, and I will say after the 6 o'clock show, if I see nothing else, we're probably going to drop this at that point in the hopes that it's probably middle of the night before we end up with the next batch. Save that, and I'm going to put that back into our palette over here. It's just off the screen where you can't quite see it. Save palette item. I gotta do it one more time. There we go. We'll be able to show that. So this is that Saturday risk area, and it's reasonable we'll see an upgrade to a higher risk level as this gets closer. That is our peak risk of these different chances is probably on Saturday. Most likely time frame for most of us to see something. Did they ever post? Come on. Let's see. Okay, let's get back to current time. You can see there's still more southwest. So again, active enough pattern that all that stuff back to the west and southwest will become that kind of line that tries to roll in overnight, and we'll have some rotation in its strongest sections. And then we have this. Okay, now hold on. Which radar site was I looking at out of this? Let's get rid of that. Delete. Let's move that ahead of the hour by hour. We'll just hack our way through this. Okay. Okay, Chad. Northwest Benton County. Man, these are way better looking in person than they are. Way more impressive looking in person than they are on anyplace else. Okay, apparently that is loading new. Okay, so let's see where it was, because from a farther shot, this looked. Okay, let's look from Jackson, see if that's where it was. Jackson, see from Jackson, it looks better. From Memphis, see how you could. Oh, sorry, we'll get my yawns out of the way. It looks way more impressive from all the outlying radars as opposed to even the one that's, right there next to it. Look from the one out. And again, that's Muscle Shoals, and that's a pretty significant distance away from that radar. It does a good job of nailing down the centroid for the greatest rotation. John, keep yawning. Okay, so then there, the side, and then we need to take 537, download that. Okay, we can use that. See here. It's like that. That's in and out. For one reason or another, anytime we try to go AirPlay with YouTube, it is not happy. See if we get Storm Chasers back up there. Does not look like it's going to do it. Oh, come on. Thinking about it. It's thinking about it. Okay, a lot of lightning, Lauderdale County, Alabama. I do need a nap. I need to go to. We keep having these back to back to back. I mean, there's always a few days before and a few days after that, and I'm exhausted. But live in Chicago. Just want to make sure. I'm not sure that far north. I'd have to see if I could. Okay. If I can catch up on what everyone else is seeing there. Hopefully, all are doing okay. We'd love to have you. We are always recruiting here at the TV station. Okay, that apparently is just not going to come through. Let's look here, Gatman. Again, broad rotation on this. It's such a small storm, but they have been so much more impressive in person than sometimes what it looks like there. Hey, Colby, where's Colby at? Where are you at, Colby? Question mark. Again, that is a impressive little storm. Okay. Okay. I'm just kind of going through trying to see the best of what people have sent in. That's Shay. Okay, new messages, kind of catch up here. Again, we're just kind of Columbus is clear for the moment. Not even in the watch technically. You are in kind of the zone where these storms are developing there, and that's why just a lot of more questions than answers at this point. Coming up here a little closer, these storms up in the Tennessee now are a bit stronger. And God, I'm looking at near Jumbo, Tennessee, tennis ball size hail right now. There's back-to-back storms there trying to do stuff. Much like a couple weeks ago where write this down. Michigan City. Okay, man. Seven North. Okay, so they're up just up here on this one. Come on. What are we got in time? Well, we're at 5:58. There we go. That's the thing. Okay, we have the newscast coming up here in just a second. There are more chances later on tonight. We're still watching those near the Tennessee state line. Where is he at exactly? Okay. Thank you. Double check, make sure that's good. Where is it downloading that to? If it's downloading it. How about ours good, John?
I mean, I have a problem receiving stuff.
Okay, thank you.
Goodness gracious is right. A lot of rain, thunder, lightning, hail. Strong thunderstorms move through the viewing area this afternoon. Right now, we're giving you a live look through an INDOT traffic camera. This one in Tupelo. Fairly clear out there. You can see that camera moving around just a bit. The wind still whipping up. The dark clouds still there in the background. We've got team severe weather coverage for you tonight. Gabe Boehner has been driving around North Mississippi, tracking the threat where you live. And of course, our chief meteorologist, Matt Walcott, back here in the studio. He's got first look at our forecast.
Yeah, we'll get to Gabe here in a moment. This is an example of what one of these thunderstorms we call low precipitation supercell looks like in person. And these have looked like normal showers and storms on Storm Track Doppler radar, but this one you can see the striations here. And this is a very organized thunderstorm. Colby and Ashton with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers with that shot from ground level near the Michigan City area just a little bit ago, and when they had the drone up, even more impressive. Not much of a gap there between the bottom of this, the wall cloud with the ground. In saying that, well, you can see where the air is kind of coming into this, in and up to this rotating thunderstorm. And it looks like this because the whole thing is rotating. you don't see that tornado quite getting to the ground. So this would be something like I would expect to have seen in Kansas growing up, not typically in Mississippi. So radar does not do a great job representing this, because the way radar works is it sends out a beam of energy, it hits something, and how it hits it shows us the wind, shows us the shape, and those are all the things we use to determine, is it going to produce tornadoes? Now, these are definitely more organized now as they have crossed north of the Tennessee state line. Those two are on this storm that's up here near Bolivar, Tennessee, and moving northward. They've shifted to that one because if you bring this back southward into our area, we don't have very many storms left at this point. We kind of overdid it with the storms initially. I think John mentioned it during our 5 o'clock broadcast, kind of like when you crank the heat up on a pot of water on the stove and you get the bubbles to start bubbling there because you have the heat. The heating of the day helped us to produce the bubbles of the storms earlier. We're losing the heat of the day. It's like turning down the stove, and so less bubbles, less chance for these to produce tornadoes out there. We do have one severe thunderstorm warning at this instant for eastern Franklin County, largely in an area that there's not a lot of folks that can watch us here in WTVA 9 News at Posey's Mill. Move toward Hatton and Hillsborough there. We're looking at Carroll Crossroads at 605, 619, Landersville, Hatton at about 626. Again, as that kind of works its way out of the WTVA 9 News viewing area, WAAY, our sister station, and Huntsville there, tracking that one as well. We're looking at Hackleburg, that thunderstorm. Again, this does not look impressive, right? But there is rotation kind of wrapping around the backside of this one as well. It's got a ways to go before it produces a tornado, but certainly one that we'll eventually have to watch, giving you a quick track there into the Phil Campbell area with that. Again, probably more likely to have some hail. We'd be looking at Phil Campbell at about 6:15. Newburgh there about 6:32, Old Bethel by about 6:43. Strongest thunderstorm closer to the core of our area is this one near Detroit. And again, listen, this does not look impressive, does it? In fact, I'm going to force the radar to go into partially what we call clear air mode. You're going to see some grays start showing up here. Part of the reason for that is that sometimes is the only way we can kind of see the hook on these. And I can kind of barely make it out, but this one clearly not as impressive as what we were watching even at 5 o'clock. And when you look at the rotation, largely it's all fairly broad. It'd be what we call elevated, meaning the rotation is not probably going to get down to the surface. And luckily, outside of that, we don't have a whole lot else out there. Now, again, if I put this into motion here, you'll notice that we do have additional storms trying to develop. So our chance is not zero, but I think we are definitely past the peak on this early evening round with another chance as we head overnight. Our meteorologist, Gabe Maynard, has been out all afternoon. He's got his eyeballs on some of these from time to time, which have largely been hail producers. He joins us from Tishomingo County with more. Gabe? I appreciate that, Gabe. You mentioned the overnight chance. Last count, I was trying to count while Gabe was talking a moment ago, as I was also listening to him. We have about 15 tornado warnings between Tennessee, Arkansas, parts of Louisiana and Texas there, and then up into Illinois and Missouri. So we are fortunate that we are on the southeast side of something more significant. The issue is that the front that's helping to produce these is going to gradually sag in and bring a slightly greater chance for us to see some more active weather later on tonight. It's with that as kind of a backdrop that we have this tornado watch that is in effect. And As you can see, the counties in blue there are the ones involved in that. This isn't affected until midnight. The thinking there is I expect most of this evening, we're not going to have anything that even resembles a tornado. But as we get later on into tonight, overnight, that potential to see an isolated rotating thunderstorm then goes up once again. So our hour-by-hour forecast, again, very limited coverage of storms between now and 11 o'clock, Emily, but it'd be after midnight. Maybe after 2 o'clock in the morning, maybe. 1 or 2 road hitting thunderstorms still possible. Our projections do show that. We'll look at those with Storm Tracker, and this is day 1 of 4, when 4 could probably be the most interesting of all of them, unfortunately. That full forecast coming up.
Thank you. We'll see you just a bit. Now, though, is the time. Sign up for Weather Call Next Gen. It's really the best way to keep you safe during life-threatening severe weather. All you have to do is take out your smartphone.
I gotta go
scan
clean my
that QR
glasses.
code
Give me
there
just a
on your
moment, because I
screen
can't see.
To learn more on how to keep you and your family safe. Do police and fire respond to emergencies during a tornado warning? Simple answer is yes, but response times may be a bit delayed. WTVA's Jake White live in Monroe County with details about a house fire that happened right in the middle of a tornado warning.
I'm gonna get my stuff set up here. Give me a moment.
Violent 2 weeks in the All-American City. 6 different shootings across the area. WTVA's Avery Hilliard will break it down for us. Tell us what's going on. WTVA 9 News at 6 continues.
Okay, let's see here.
Law enforcement in Prentiss County are looking for the person responsible for a homicide. WTVA's Veronica Mejia spoke to a Louisville woman and asked her reaction. Veronica, what are folks concerned about? Not getting you.
So I'm getting all my pictures ready to go here.
At 6, there were 6 shootings in Tupelo in the last 2 weeks of March. They say that's a lot of shootings for a short period of time in the all-American city. WTEA's Avery Hilliard joined us live in Tupelo Police Department where she spoke with the chief about what's going on.
Okay, Michelle. Oh man. Whoa.
Were you already? Look through an in-depth traffic damage till tonight. Matt's back with a look at our forecast next.
Okay. Girl, that keeps messing up. Yes. Go for it. Yes. Next. Oh, that keeps messing up. Fine. Ish. Is Gabe around or not? Are those pictures from him specifically? Question mark. Hold on. I need to. How long? Keep me updated on time. I need to get this over. This here. Come on. Share it, please. Or iPad 2. Is that the right one or the wrong one? Or did I heard it? You need to accept that. Oh, the question is, am I going to really give up on everything for one video? Yes, I am. I've got to. Got to get the location. Payne Thornton sending us this video here of a tornado over in Arkansas out of one of the storms they have over there. This is a plain style tornado that's, well, that's a rough looking one. Appreciate Payne for, well, Payne's wife for sharing that with us. You can share your pictures with us, weather.wtva.com. A lot of you shared some big hail pictures today. I'll see if I can get some of those up and shown for you, either if not in this broadcast, in the next one. As you can see, it's just a kind of a wall of red back to the west. All these red boxes are tornado warnings, or more beyond that as well. This is what a high risk for tornadoes looks like. This is the zone where the high risk has been in play. These are locations most impacted. We have been fortunate that that has not been the case for us. For us, we are watching locations near the Alabama state line. In particular, looking at Lamar and Marion counties right now. You see how when we come in closer, look at only the lowest scan, how these do not look as impressive. That's because they are low precipitation supercells. You know, a lot of times we're like, oh, tornadoes, rain wrap, you can't see it. You saw that last one I showed you a moment ago perfectly, because there's less precipitation. So they look like, well, they just don't look impressive on radar. But when you get them in person, these are probably producing at least some pea-sized hail and trying to lift northward at this time through Hamilton there, as you'll note the heaviest of those. But outside of this batch here, none that are terribly strong. So we'll get kind of a storm track on that as we look ahead. Again, moving north and east, speed on that at about 50 miles per hour, which has been how fast they have typically been moving for today. And hail has again been one of the big headlines. And appreciate so many folks for sharing those pictures with us. This picture here coming in from Bree at Lake Itawamba. I mean, that's well over a quarter-sized hailstone with it, and very jagged. Probably the most Mississippi picture I'll show you today. Hail size of something that might be standard. I can't tell you the exact size on that because I'm not as good with that, but let's just say that's easily 1.5 inch size hail. A real jagged picture there. Appreciate Marley, again, her husband, taking that picture, sending it over to her. I mean, look. I mean, it looks like there's crystals sticking off the side of this. When you have a very violent updraft, the raindrops almost freeze instantly. The water kind of peeled back off of it. That's why it just gets such a jagged look to that. Appreciate April for sending us that picture there. All these from Itawamba County so far. And just look at the giant, I mean, the giant hail falling with that shot there. Appreciate this picture coming in from Michelle, and one more. Well, that's a video from Michelle, and that's what it looked like up close. That's the reason you want to stay inside and avoid all that. Of course, you can share your pictures, weather at weather at WTVA.com, the way in which you can share those. Hey, listen, things are looking a lot better than they did a couple hours ago. Still, we have that tornado watch in effect, because it's not impossible that a thunderstorm could strengthen to those levels. But the severe risk, the primary risk for tonight, is back to the north and west. For tomorrow, we're mainly included, but again, back to the north and west. Is the repetitive nature of these storms is why the flooding rainfall threat is the greatest that way. The threat maybe lifts a little farther north and west for your Friday, but then as we go towards Saturday, everybody involved, already a level 3 risk, could see an upgrade as we get closer potentially, depending on how this all plays out. But tonight, the threat does continue. Storm Tracker has done kind of a job on depicting these storms, and most of our projections have. But one thing it does show is a few of those thunderstorms lingering together and possibly showing a little bit of rotation. 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Our meteorologist Chelsea Simmons will be in here alongside our meteorologist Gabe Maynor and potentially myself, depending on how it all times out. She'll have updates on that overnight, and certainly tomorrow morning start at 4:30 a.m. on WTVA 9 News. As by tomorrow afternoon, only a couple isolated storms depicted here, but only a couple isolated storms depicted today on projection. So it's not inconceivable that threat extends farther east than what Storm Tracker is indicating. Hence the reason we're under that threat. There's that margin of error for tomorrow. As we go into your Friday, most of it is back to the north and west. But as we head into Saturday, things start focusing more toward us. And by Saturday midday afternoon, thunderstorms possible. A lot more of those back out into locations in Arkansas moving in later in the day. So for tomorrow, 71 in the morning, 86. I mean, we're practically to record high territory next couple of days, Emily. But again, the day we're tracking, the greatest likelihood is going to end up being Saturday, late in the day, and into the pre-dawn hours of Sunday. Emily, tornado threat greatest for that day before we dry out next week. Man, I wish I zoomed that in. Look at that, if I zoomed that in. Leonard, what's wrong with me? Look, no, that's wrong iPad. Yeah. That's fine. Look at that. Look what I could have had if I'd done my. Look at that. Why doesn't do need pain to pan up? Look at that. Look at that, John.
Where's it, Arkansas?
It's Arkansas. That's Katie's. Where are we at here? Let's get back to that. Where do I have that? Photos. I did not check out the other one. That's crazy. Okay, let's get that down. Let's stop and reassess here. Oh, go, we got lucky. We got lucky. Looking at some of these pictures coming out of Arkansas, we got lucky.
Saturday, but
I get it. That's still down the road, but I mean, tonight you have to handle tonight. They could still get a couple more chances the next few days, but.
very good.
Mm. Mm-mm. I mean, look at that. 7,000 tornado warnings. Geez, look at that, John. Take your pick.
Happening now, a local teacher is in the running for the title of America's favorite teacher. Jennifer Pratt, a Houston alternative school teacher, is competing for this year's title. Pratt's dedicated more than 20 years of teaching at Houston Alternative School. Voting is happening right now. We have a link to it right on our website, WTVA.com. Another live look outside, this time through our Tupelo tower cam. It's still cloudy out there. What's left over of the storms. Chief meteorologist Matt Walton has a final look at what we can expect going into the rest of our evening coming up.
Okay, thank you. You said 40? The only thing standing between you and a 36. Just like I couldn't read fast enough for it. Oh, the way he humbles us. Okay. 40 seconds coming back. So let's have this. Show this. I wonder if I have decent. No, I'm not gonna. That's not worth it. It's not worth it. Am I tossing back at all? Better not. Boom, boom, boom. We are save. 1. Okay. Yes. Palettes. Let's get this over to that. Perfect. So we'll be over here and we can go back over that. Boy, this is John best case scenario
Well, it's just-
for what we could have had happen. When those storms start popping, This is best case scenario.
Not sure there's not-
Whose live stream? Is that Ashton's live stream?
Yes.
Why can't I never get it to load on
It's on
iPad?
It's on the, this is on Memphis.
That's using Memphis?
No, that's, I'm
Oh, yeah, yeah.
not sure why it's not so much.
Would you flip the prompter, please? You forgot to do that earlier. Still watching a few thunderstorms here in Marion and Franklin counties out on the Alabama side. They are a lot weaker than any of our strongest storms were an hour or so ago. Only a little while longer, they're still there in Franklin County. White House area about 627. Wilkin, they're closer to Phil Campbell, about 643. Russellville, 653. If we clear that off and kind of come back to the west, this is the deal. Overnight and later tonight, we're watching all these tornado-producing thunderstorms. Some, like you showed you a minute ago there, even one I think still ongoing at this point here. As this line moves in late tonight, there are chances we could have bigger issues. Again, unfortunately, not going to be everybody, but a few of us will be tracking the latest on that and the next couple of storm threats in the next few days. Come up tonight on WTVA 9 News at 10. Okay, thank you. Okay. Let's leave it up. Yes, the odds are pretty good. What did we already recorded? We recorded stuff, right? Okay. We're gonna go ahead and shut this down. I'm gonna shut my stream down here behind the scenes. I'm gonna probably run and grab something to eat real fast and get back. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, we're gonna shut this down here. Most of this is gonna stay to the north and west tonight. That was always the expectation. We got the hail, like we did not get the tornadoes, thankfully, out of what we had. Got close, really close. But didn't quite get there, thankfully. So we're going to shut this down. We'll bring it back up later tonight as necessary. We'll probably do some kind of Facebook live stream, just kind of an overall update at some point later this evening. And then we'll, come back up overnight as necessary. We're going to go ahead and shut this down for now. Y'all stay safe. Man, pray for those folks out there in Arkansas. Those are some rough looking storms. As anticipated, that's what you get out of a high risk. As we know a couple weeks ago, theirs unfortunately are producing more than ours were. Because I mean, that is rough.
Large tomato, considerable damage.
Yeah, they just updated that. I mean, and other rotating storms in the line, that's just the obvious ones on the map there. And this one has looked more impressive from time to time as well. So rough evening. Anyway, we're gonna clear this off. We'll talk to you a little bit later. Y'all be safe and smart. We'll see you in a little bit. Yeah, Ryan Vaughn has a ton to juggle, but luckily he is an excellent juggler. Okay, we'll see y'all later. Bye.